Welcome to Just a Minute. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, talented performers who this week are going to play Just a Minute. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Josie Lawrence, and seated on my left, Jenny Eclair and Tony Hawkes. Please welcome all 4 of them. Thank you. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling. She's going to help me keep the score. She's going to run the stopwatch for me. And she'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we'll begin the show this week with Paul Merton. Paul, a lovely subject. A wallflower. Will you tell us something about a wallflower in just a minute, if you can, starting now?
Well, I suppose it can be a term for a shy person at a party that's standing against the wall, not getting involved in the social arrangements happening around them. Or indeed, clematis can be a wallflower, although men have trouble finding it in the seed catalogues, I believe. There was once a man who nearby where I lived who grew the most magnificent wallflowers up his walls. People would come from miles around to examine the beautiful buds that were sprouting up this particular brick edifice, and they would say to him, "How have you managed to create such colour and life and vibrancy from these mere seeds that you have planted in the ground?" And he would say, "Well, it answers all in the soil." And he would get his fingers into the dirt and show that how, if you plant a wallflower against a shady wall, perhaps...
Ah, yes. Tony, you challenge first.
I think it was a repetition of plant.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was a repetition of wall myself.
Well, I think... But you can repeat wall,
There was a great repetition of wall,
wall is
but
in
you
the
did
title,
talk about planting before.
Absolutely.
So anyway, we've got him anyway. We'll have repetition. So you've got him with 12 seconds to go. Oh. The subject is a wallflower. With you, Tony, starting now.
I have a beautiful wall at home, south-facing, and I pour water on it every day. But does it flower? No. I've tried, and every single day I go out and see... Oh.
Josie, you challenged just before the whistle.
I may be wrong, but I sensed there was a repetition of day.
Yes.
There was a repetition of every, actually.
Yeah.
And every day.
Yeah. Right.
Every day.
So,
Well sensed.
Josie.
Did I get it in time?
Yes, you got in just
Good
in time,
Lord,
darling.
that was terrible
So
of
you
me.
get a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject, and you have half a second to go on wallflower, starting now. In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Josie Lawrence, so naturally she's in the lead at the end of the round. And Jenny, we're back with you to begin. Oh, a really historical one.
Oh, no.
Yes, I'm sure you know something. Everybody knows something about this character, Napoleon. Tell us something about Napoleon in this game, starting now.
Napoleon was a tiny little fella, especially when viewed from a distance, who rose through the military ranks to become the Emperor of France. Now, I'm not sure where he was born, but I think it might have been at Ajaccio, as I went there and saw a statue. There's no other reason, is there? Anyway, his downfall was, as ABBA sang, at Waterloo. He also said to his girlfriend, "Not tonight, Josephine," because when you are a mini dictator, just like a footballer, one doesn't do nookie before a great big game. So he didn't want to put himself off his stride, but actually he was thrashed.
Oh, Paul, you challenge.
Well, we teetered towards hesitation, I think.
I think you were teetering a bit towards hesitation, and I think we can interpret that, Jenny, as a hesitation.
I know, it's a shame, isn't it?
But those are the
I'll get
rules.
back in, don't you worry.
Yeah.
I nearly buzzed on... is it Ajaccio?
It's Ajaccio, that's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
would you have given me that if I'd buzzed in for that?
Oh, you pedant.
I was wondering about
I
calling
wouldn't.
Waterloo, the Battle of Waterloo, a game.
There were lots of things, there were lots of things, but...
Yeah, it was historically quite incorrect throughout.
Was it?
I didn't know what I was talking about. Let's face it. Paul, I am grateful.
Yes.
I was transfixed.
Yeah, me too.
And you did it with great confidence, even the mispronunciation. And Paul, you have 9 seconds still available on Napoleon, starting now.
Napoleon, the film, directed by Abel Gance, was released in 1926 and was restored by Kevin Brownlow some 25 years later.
So Paul Merton was again speaking as the whistle went and had got another point, increased his lead. And Tony Hawks, we're with you to begin. And the subject now, office politics. It's not very funny, actually. I don't know.
I will be.
Any reaction?
In my hands.
Has actually ever worked in an office?
No, I've never worked in a...
3
You have,
years.
haven't you?
Department of Employment.
Yeah.
3 years.
Right.
Tooting Broadway.
Have you, Tony, ever worked in an office?
You'll find out in a minute.
Yeah. And I'll know if he's lying.
Tony, office politics. 60 seconds if you want it, starting now.
I have never worked in an office, although I have one at home, and I have a political...
Jenny challenge.
Just lots of haves.
There were lots of haves, yes.
I wouldn't normally pick you up on a small word like that. But I just thought, well, you know, Paul was a bit petty. I'm going to be petty too. Come on. It's a game.
Darling, you're being a bit petty now.
Yeah, I know.
You made your point.
But you said you were grateful.
Oh, yeah. All right. Let's leave it.
Jenny, that was the correct challenge. You
Thank
have
you.
a point, and there are 53 seconds available. Office politics starting now.
Because I work in my own study, I have had to create a fictional office peopled by colleagues.
Tony challenge.
Hesitation because she felt too guilty about the previous challenge.
I couldn't remember.
Tony, a correct challenge. A point to you. Office politics is with you, and 45 seconds available starting now.
Despite not having an office, I still got a political...
Josie challenge.
Well, I think there was a bit of a hesitation
Yes,
after...
he was
I
trying not to
realise
say
I can't
have.
say have anymore, which...
Yes.
I can hardly
This
do
ought to be
anything.
your catchphrase as well. Tony have Hawks. Always been his catchphrase.
Yes.
Josie, the benefit of the doubt. Yes, a correct challenge. Another point to you, and there are 39 seconds available. Office politics starting now.
Sometimes in an office there can be a bit of a hierarchy. Oh, why is June in Mr. Clement's house for so long? And why is it a house and not an office? Talking absolute rubbish. And I'm going to say that before anybody else does.
Darling, you can talk as much rubbish as you like in just a minute.
I know I
you don't
can,
hesitate
darling.
for repetition or deviation. Right. Paul, you challenge first.
Massive self-awareness.
Yes.
Repetition of have. House, I think.
30 seconds are still available for office politics starting now.
I worked at the Department of Employment at Tooting Bec for 3 years. My particular part of that office was the Newtown scheme, where people would come to me and ask if they could live in such places as Milton Keynes, Bracknell, Basildon, Stevenage and others. I was also involved in the TOPS training scheme, which standed at that time for the training opportunities.
Josie challenge.
A repetition of training.
Yes, training scheme, training.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yes,
yeah,
well, listen, Josie. Another point to you, and only 9 seconds available. Office politics starting now.
Sometimes it all depends on where you have your desk. If it's near the boss's office, then everybody thinks, oh, there's something special about...
So, Josie Lawrence was then speaking as the whistle went. Gained an extra point for doing so. She's now equal in the lead with Paul Merton. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. The subject, predicting the weather. It's not very funny, but thank you for trying. 60 seconds if you need it, Paul, starting now.
It's one of those subjects where laymen talk about it and they say, oh, they don't know how to predict the weather, as if the people employed at the meteorological office are complete dullards. It must be difficult to predict the weather over...
Josie challenge?
Repetition of predict.
Oh, yes, it's predicting the weather is the subject on the
Canny.
card. Josie, a correct challenge. 49 seconds are left. Predicting the weather starting now.
I like the really old-fashioned ways of predicting the weather. When I used to go on holiday with my mum and dad to Tenby, we stayed at the lodgings of Mrs. Williams, who had an extension on the side of her farmhouse. And she would tell us in the morning, if we opened our curtains, if the cows in the field were sitting down, then it was going to rain. If there were clouds...
Oh, yes. Tony, challenge first.
Repetition of if.
Yes.
Yes, if there were. So, Tony,
Well, it's
you...
hard hard, but you don't have to use Jenny if all the time when you're putting a sentence together, as opposed to have that you do have to.
Oh, well said, Tony. Right, you have the subject of predicting the weather. Tony, another point, of course, on the way. 28 seconds available, starting now.
The best way to predict the weather is to have a barbecue on Sunday. Then you know it will rain. And you can state this categorically earlier in the week. I agree with Paul about the way people react to these poor meteorologists. I was one of those for a while, and I thought that it was about predicting meteors, which I would do every day until they sacked.
So Tony Hawks is then speaking as a whistle win, again the extra point. And Josie Lawrence, it's your turn to begin. The subject now, a sleeping policeman. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
He lay in a fetal position under the duvet, his head on the fluffy pillow. Tossed in the corner were a pair of boots. On a hook at the back of the door, a uniform. Yes, he was a sleeping policeman. I wonder what a sleeping policeman dreams about. Just being good on the beat, or perhaps rising up in the ranks to becoming an inspector, like Morse on the telly. Or just maybe tiny dinosaurs riding about on turquoise bikes. If a sleeping policeman has a nightmare...
Jenny, you challenge.
I think that policeman's taking drugs, and I think he should be taken off the job. I don't think he can be trusted.
So, Jenny, we love the interruptions. You get a point for that anyway, but what was your challenge within the rules of just a minute?
I was worried about the good people of his neighbourhood, and there isn't a correct challenge.
No.
We get a bonus point because we love
right.
the introduction.
I'll take that.
But you were interrupted, Josie, so you get a point for that. There are 21 seconds still available. A sleeping policeman starting now.
What if Eric, this policeman, really was a sleeping policeman, stuck there in the middle of the road, unable to move, like a speed bump, with the vehicles coming towards him? Help me, he would cry. But...
Tony challenge.
No, he wouldn't. He's asleep.
It's in his dreams. In his dreams, and in your dreams you can speak. He can take the if, but he's not taking Eric.
His dreams have got a bit boring since the turquoise bicycle. If he's dreaming of being a lump of concrete.
And no one took the obvious route, which is those humps in the road, which are referred to as sleeping policemen.
That's right, yeah.
Yes, I just said he was a speed bump.
No, you never said a speed bump.
I did.
Yes.
Oh, well, would somebody else like my job? Because I didn't get it. Anyway, Tony, your challenge again.
Deviation,
yeah.
you couldn't
a
slight error or whatever.
I think we must get on
where
logic.
Where is it deviation?
Well, I'll take a bonus point for the audience clearly enjoying the challenge.
Tony, you get your bonus point.
Thank you very much.
Because you were correct. You get a point because you were interrupted, Josie. And there are only 3 seconds available. Ooh, a sleeping policeman, Josie, starting now.
I have a sleeping policeman outside my house.
So Josie Lawrence, speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point. Oh, she's taking over the lead now, ahead of Paul Merton and Tony Hawks in second place. Jenny, you're bringing up the rear magnificently. And it's your turn to begin. And here's a challenging subject for you. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
To say, Nicholas.
I know it is. I practiced it before I came on. Teenage Mutant and Ninja Turtles. Can you tell us something about them in this game, starting now?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were heroes in a half shell. Scrawny type of frog creatures, turtles, in fact, who live in the sewers of New York, coming out to fight crime in different coloured bandanas. Despite being turtles, they were named after...
Tony.
False challenge. I thought she'd repeated turtles, but
Turtles is in the title!
Yeah, exactly. So I thought I'd give her an extra point by challenging.
Now, don't be so magnanimous like that. Incorrect challenge, Jenny. You've still got the subject. 37 seconds are left. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, starting now.
They were called Donatello, Raphael, Leonardo, and Michelangelo. Yeah, get me? A cartoon that was hugely popular back in the 90s when my daughter was tiny. I'd leave her for hours on end, glued to the box, sneaking up my stairs to the study, looking out of the window, smoking fags, thinking what's going to become of me years later.
Paul Challenge.
While she's smoking and looking out the window and wondering what's to become of her, have we strayed a bit from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
They're still going on downstairs. I can still hear them. I can hear because my daughter's got the television very loudly and I'm thinking, oh, God, I wish she'd turn it down. All I can hear is the clash.
Jenny,
You seem
you
to be
need to
getting
go on
older as you speak.
We all are.
I'm going to give you the benefit of the
Thank you,
doubt,
Nicholas.
Jenny, because you did establish to me that you were going upstairs and your daughter was downstairs,
Yes.
engaged with these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I wouldn't leave it quite so long before you mention them again. 5 seconds are still available. Another point to you, Jenny. The time starts now.
Years later, another member joined the gang, a girl one called Venus de Milo.
Well, Jenny, what I thought was going to be a challenging subject turned out to be not too bad for you because your daughter knew all about them. And you moved forward, yes. Oh, we had 3 people equal in second place. Paul, Merton, Jenny Eclair and Tony Hawkes, trailing Josie Lawrence, our leader. And Tony, we're back with you to begin. And the subject now, a geographical one. Vienna. Tell us something about Vienna in just a minute, if you can, starting now.
I once had a Viennese whirl, but I can't remember her name now. This means nothing to me, Vienna. Should I sing it? The words...
Paul
No.
Chum. Right, give Paul a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption. You were interrupted, Tony.
Yep.
So you get a point for that. Keep the subject, and there are 47 seconds still available. Vienna, starting now.
Vienna is quite well known for people like Beethoven, Mozart, Sigmund Freud, and Marko Atanovic, who plays for West Ham, I believe, although I may have got his name incorrectly pronounced. Tremendous sonatas he wrote, and he was quite good on the analysis of dreams. But that's another story, and quite a dull one, believe me.
I believe you. Didn't have to convince me of that one.
Paul, have you got a challenge within the rules of just a minute?
Well, I'm not sure that Marko Atanovic, whatever he is, the West Ham player, wrote symphonies, but probably deviation.
I don't think he said he could have done. He didn't say they definitely did.
No, he certainly could have done.
Listen, Paul, we enjoyed your interruption. Give him a bonus point. He deserves it. You get a point for being interrupted, Tony. Keep the subject to Vienna, and 21 seconds available, starting now.
I went to Vienna recently. I didn't mean to. I was on a flight to Chisinau, Moldova, Austrian Airlines, and it stopped there. But we missed the connecting one of these things where you go up in the air. And so they put me up in a hotel. I loved it. I wandered around, looked at the Habsburg Palace. They were a funny lot. Big chins. Did anyone know that? That's right.
So Tony Hawkes started with the subject of Vienna, and in spite of interruptions, kept going till the 60 seconds was up, gained an extra point for doing so. He's just 1 point behind Josie Lawrence, and he's 1 point ahead of Paul Merton, and 3 or 4 ahead of Jenny Eclair. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. Oh, a lovely subject. A Valentine's card. 60 seconds if you want it, starting now.
A Valentine's card, nothing says so much how much I love you than...
Josie.
A repetition of much?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, how much? Yes. Jodie was straight in there. A point for you, correct challenge. 56 seconds still available. A Valentine's card starting now.
I don't know if I'll get through this without saying I never ever receive.
Jenny challenge.
Incorrect challenge. I misheard never and ever and thought she'd said...
Never, never.
Yes.
Yes, and look how she's not celebrating.
I apologise, Josie.
Don't apologise, Jenny, because it just adds to the fun of the show. But all that happens is, I'm afraid, your opponent, Josie Lawrence, gets a point.
And I will get my ears fringed.
A Valentine's cards with you still, Josie. 50 seconds starting now.
You know, for years, my best friend's husband, Barry, used to send me, on February the 14th, a Valentine card.
Jenny challenge.
I'm not sure she should tell everybody this.
It's a lovely story.
It's a lovely story.
Okay.
Yeah, but also, if he sent it on February the 14th...
Oh, don't spoil it.
It's going to get there a day late.
It's a lovely story.
It's going to get there a day late. He needs to send it on February the 13th.
They lived next door.
Hand posted.
It's a lovely story.
All right, let's
lovely
have all
story.
of these. Right.
You ended up
Back to
having-
Josie.
yeah.
I want to hear the story now.
It's a lovely story.
And a lovely, they all seem to know something about the story except me.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we won't charge any points on that, but say, Josie, continue with the subject of a Valentine's card.
Yeah.
40 seconds still available, starting now.
He would do this because they loved me and they knew I never got. See, it's timing now. You've been real bullies on this one.
I know that's what happens in this game. Paul,
Who's been
challenge
bullying
first.
you?
Everybody.
Have I been bullying you? You challenged me, I haven't challenged you. I'm sorry if you perceive that as
Darling,
bullying
I
you.
haven't been bullying you.
So
I've been
close.
encouraging you.
She'll get it back. She'll get it back.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
bye.
I've got... Oh, I never bloody get them anyway. Let's just...
I think I'm beginning to see why.
But anyway, Paul, you've got it now with another point. Valentine's card is with you, and there are 35 seconds available, starting now.
Some of these cards have beautiful roses on the front, bouquets of all kinds of flowers, a simple heart portrayed in cartoon form, maybe Cupid pulling back his arrow and firing it into somebody's chest, indicating that one day their true love...
Tony challenge.
That's murder, not love.
Oh no, I'd said heart before, so I couldn't say heart again. I said chest.
Well, I think if you were speaking metaphorically.
Yes.
I mean, Cupid is also metaphorical too, so it couldn't be a real arrow that Cupid flies. It's a metaphorical
Yeah, I just
arrow.
thought I might get a bonus point because the audience enjoyed the challenge.
Well, if you beg for it like that, I'll give you the benefit.
Are we allowed to
no.
beg?
You can do whatever you like in this show if I uphold it. Right. But Paul, you were interrupted, so you get a point for that, and you keep the subject, and there are 19 seconds available. A Valentine's card starting now.
It may well be a Victorian invention when people decided to send each other these cards as an illustration of how much their high esteem meant to them and to the person that was receiving this particular offering. I remember once opening the post on February the 14th. I got a card from Barry. He was my next door neighbour.
Paul Merton speaking of the whistle when getting that extra point. And we're just moving into the final round. Oh, you are a lovely audience. And I'll give you what the situation is as regards the points. Jenny Eclair is trailing just a little. She's behind Tony Hawkes, who's only 2 points behind Paul Merton. And he's only 1 point behind Josie Lawrence, who's still in the lead.
Hey.
And it's Josie's turn to begin. And the subject in front of me, Josie, now is pottery. Can you tell us something about pottery in this game starting now?
I went to a pottery class. The teacher said, "Would you like to throw a pot?" I said, "Well, I haven't made one yet." Can't break.
Josie, challenge. You've challenged yourself.
I challenged myself.
I presume I have to ask you, what was your challenge?
Nothing, I was just being witty. Can I have a bonus point, please? It was a mistake.
If you give me a legitimate challenge, I could have given you something. You want a bonus point?
My legitimate
have
challenge
bonus
was
points.
hesitation because I waited for the laughter.
You're waiting for laughter?
Yes.
I think what we'll do there, she's begging for a bonus point, because it's a very tight situation, Josie.
I know.
We can't start challenging ourselves and then begging for bonus points. I mean, how desperate is that?
Jenny challenge.
I'm desperate.
Give them all a bonus point. Josie, you've still got the subject. There are 54 seconds available. Pottery starting now.
Can you remember, some of you, years back, in between the programmes on the television, there would be the most mesmerising film footage of a potter's wheel. There's something so calming about pottery. It goes back to ancient times. When I was walking in China along the wall, I often found little fragments going back as far as the Ming dynasty. Pottery comes in different ways. You can throw some...
Jenny challenge.
Repetition of throw.
Absolutely.
I think you were throwing a bit too much there, Josie.
Yeah. Did you sell any of the Ming pottery that you found?
No, I bought a bit back. About that big.
Lovely. I must come round and have a look.
At 10 Ming.
You're listening to the Today programme.
I would like to apologise.
No, she polishes it up and puts it on the mantelpiece.
Yeah, I need to dust it.
Jenny, you're all right. Look, I think we enjoyed that so much. Give her a bonus point. I don't think it'll make any difference to the final score. But Jenny, you've got in there. 23 seconds still available. Pottery, starting now.
Last year, when I was feeling exceedingly mad, I went to pottery classes in Peckham under the arches and threw many a pot, glazed a plate, all sorts of things. I was so excited. Every Saturday morning for 4 weeks, I'd go down to this glorious place full of arty folk in aprons and get down and dirty with clay.
So Jenny Eclair, speaking as a whistle-wind, gained that extra point, and the final score is almost equal, actually. We have two people in third place, Tony Hawks and Jenny Eclair. They're only 1 point behind Paul Merton, who's only 1 point behind Josie Lawrence. So we do say, Josie, you are the winner this week. We do hope you have enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. And it remains me to say thank you to these four fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Josie Lawrence, Jenny Eclair and Tony Hawks. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score and blown the whistle, of course. And we thank our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're indebted to this lovely audience here, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. So from them, from me, Nicholas Parsons and the team, goodbye, thank you, and tune in again the next time we take to the air and we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons. And as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But also to welcome to the programme four exciting, dynamic personalities who this week are going to show their skill with words and language as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Joe Caulfield, and seated on my left, Julian, Clary and Shappi Khorsandi. Will you please welcome all four of them? Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me with the score. She'll run the stopwatch and she'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we begin the show on this occasion with Paul Merton. Paul, the subject here are records. Tell us something about records in this game starting now.
The invention of the LP in the 1950s meant that longer pieces of music could be enjoyed at home, such as a symphony, for example. One thinks of Beethoven's first, second, third, fourth, fifth symphonies as being something that people could enjoy in the pleasure of their own living room. The long-playing record...
Joe, you challenged.
He sort of stumbled into a lump.
Yes.
And I thought, I don't think that's a word.
I think I'd said
again.
LP before, so I was trying to avoid it unsuccessfully.
Joe, correct challenge. A point to you. You take over the subject. There are 41 seconds still available. Records starting now.
If you call them records, that says something about your age, because young people now call it vinyl. And vinyl, which I've just repeated.
It's a wicked game, isn't it? Julian, you challenge first.
Repetition of vinyl.
Yes, correct challenge. A point to you. And there's still 33 seconds available. Records starting now.
I hold a number of records, in particular that for the most saucy innuendos squeezed into the Catholic Mass. It all happened when I was an altar boy at St. Benedict's, and the...
Paul challenge.
Was there hesitation there?
No, I didn't hear his voice, his lips were moving. I saw that.
OK.
But, and words were coming out. But
I might have been building up to a hesitation, but I wasn't there yet.
No.
And you were a bit quiet, so we couldn't quite hear you.
A psychic challenge.
Yeah. So an incorrect challenge. Julian, you have a point for that. Keep the subject. And there's still 19 seconds available. Records starting now.
I shall try and project more so that I'm not rudely interrupted once more. Where was I? Ah, yes, going back to my infancy. There I was during the transubstantiation. I thought, I wonder if I should say something rude at this point, but I took one look at the priest there in head-to-toe cassocks. I thought...
In this game... Whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. It was Julian Clary, so naturally he's in the lead at the end of the round. Shappi, Khorsandi, will you take the next round? Ooh, chicken nuggets. Shappi, 60 seconds if you need it. Chicken nuggets starting now.
Chicken nuggets are what you feed your children when you have run out of fish fingers. There are other food options.
Julian, new challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, and a repetition, right. And 53 seconds for you still available on chicken nuggets starting now.
I've had a number of nuggets in my mouth, but never those of a chicken. I think there's something unsavoury about that particular food source. I don't know that it is healthy. What part of the animal does it come from? Is it really chicken? Is it some sort of transubstantiated food? That's not the right word, but you know what I mean. That is...
Paul challenge.
Deviation, it wasn't the right word.
That's a difficult decision for me, Paul, because technically you are right.
Yes.
And I think you should have a point for that.
But then the area of
also,
doubt, yes.
Within the rules of just a minute, he can say what he likes as long as he doesn't hesitate.
True enough.
Or preach something. So I think it's a point to you for an incorrect challenge.
Thank you.
A point to Paul because we enjoyed the challenge. So, Julian, still with you, 33 seconds. Chicken nuggets starting now.
If my husband served me chicken nuggets, I'd say, what's this muck? You can take that right back where you got it from. And hopefully something more tasty would be replaced.
Joe challenge.
Just sort of marital advice. I think something more tasty will not be brought if you say that to your...
So, Joe, I think your interruption and your comments deserve that round of applause. And so we give you a bonus point for that, as I did with Paul. But he wasn't technically deviating from the rules of just a minute. So, Julian, another point to you. 23 seconds. Chicken nuggets starting now.
I've got more points than I've ever had chicken nuggets, which is a strange turnaround. I suppose there's protein involved, and anything covered in breadcrumbs is what people in the provinces eat, which occasionally I do visit, and so I really shouldn't be sniffy about chicken nuggets. In fact, I'm going to go home this evening and demand chicken nuggets for my tea. And...
Once again, Julian Clary was speaking as a whistleblower, gained that extra point, has increased his lead. And Joe Caulfield, we're with you to begin. The ideal home. Will you talk about that subject if you can? 60 seconds, starting now.
The ideal home is a thing that people are so keen on finding that it even has its own exposition.
Paul Jones.
Sadly, hesitation over the word exhibition.
I know.
And completely saying it wrong.
Yes.
As well.
Sadly.
So, Paul, correct challenge, 54 seconds available. You tell us something about the ideal home, starting now.
Well, I suppose I live now in the ideal home, having lived back in the 1980s in a series of...
Oh, yes. Julian.
He said,
He did,
Yes. Yes, true.
But he said it so robustly, it was like a proper word within the rules.
But it still was wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, it was yeah.
Hesitation. So, Julian, you're on form tonight, and another point to you. 49 seconds if you want it. The ideal home, starting now.
I'm thrilled with this subject because back in the 90s, I wrote a song called The Ideal Home, which I'll perform for you in a moment. It was a joint composition between myself, Barb Younger, and Michael Parker.
Was there hesitation there? Did he say ah?
One-upmanship here, isn't it? No, he didn't, actually.
Didn't he?
He was very...
I think he did.
No, I have to confess, I did say
You did?
Yeah.
All right. Paul, correct challenge.
Thank you very much.
And you have a point. You've got the subject back. You haven't had the subject yet. The ideal home, and 36 seconds starting now.
The ideal home for many people can be different things. Some would like to live...
Was that really picky of me to pick up on a hesitation?
Only if it's there.
No hesitation.
Was there no hesitation?
I mean, we love people being keen, but not that keen.
Sorry about that.
Paul, an incorrect challenge. 32 seconds available. Another point. The ideal home starting now.
Somebody Dutch might prefer a place in Amsterdam overlooking the canal near the red shops that litter that particular part of the world. Others might say to themselves, New York apartment, that's for me. I would want to be walking along the Bronx River saying, what's the Bronx? The Bronx River? What's the Bronx River?
Yeah.
Where's that? That's not in New York.
No, but you kept going.
I did keep going, yeah.
But you were in challenge, unfortunately.
Yes, it was a deviation.
Ideal home is with you, Julian. And another point, of course, 14 seconds starting now.
I won a competition for a modern-day home, and now I've got concealed lighting and a push-button phone. I've a plum flock lounge and an alcove in green, and a thick pile carpet in rich tangerine. That's all I can remember, but it was a description of my...
So Julian Clary was then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point again and has increased his lead at the end of that round. And Julian, we're back with you to begin.
No.
Yes, the subject is Boudicca. Will you tell us something about that queen? Boudicca, starting now.
Boudicca was a Celtic queen, and not much is known about her because it was such a long time ago. Did you ever go out with her? Probably not. She was not the sort of person...
Deviation. Oh, no, to be fair, Nicholas did know her mother. That's fair.
Paul, I was just about to give it to you, and I think I might take it away from you now. What are your challenge when the rules have just...
I just wanted to correct Julian's ill-informed opinion.
Well, he did a pause, of course, after he said it, to get the laugh, didn't he? I think the benefit of the doubt has to go to you, Paul, and say... 51 seconds still available. Boudicca starting now.
I had this charming golden brown Labrador called Boudicca, and the two of us would walk across Hampstead Heath late at night, finding our legs stretching across the moors.
Joe, challenge.
I was confused by the image of you finding your leg, so I thought that was deviation, like you were saying, something made no sense, because I go, how him and the dog both walking around trying to find their legs? But then I realised you were using it as an expression, and I apologise, and I'm so wrong. So wrong.
You weren't exactly wrong. You were being a bit picky, I know, but there we are.
I would rather be wrong than picky, I feel, Nicholas.
All right. In that case, Paul has another point. And 41 seconds for Boudicca. Paul, starting now.
I had this budgie called Boudicca, and she was a beautiful bird. Used to lie in this cage, green and brown with the different colours, and I thought to myself one day, I shall teach this particular creature how to speak. Various phrases like, my name is Boudicca, not unfortunately the same as the dog that I mentioned. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned that word earlier. I think I said...
Yeah. Julian challenge.
Repetition of mention.
And also dog, of course.
A dog.
Julian, you got him with another point. And
Can I have his point? I haven't got any points yet.
Give her a point.
Thank you.
Julian's got the subject, legitimately. Boudicca. 20 seconds, Julian, starting now.
The thing about Boudicca is you would not want to get on the wrong side of her. Oh, she had a temper. She would...
There you are. You see, you do get in eventually, Shappi.
Yes, there was slight hesitation, and also, look, when a woman's assertive, it doesn't mean she necessarily has a temper.
She did a lot of murdering, though.
Yeah, but Romans...
Celtics.
Yeah, but she fought the Romans.
No, she fought the Romans.
Yes. Have another point.
She didn't kill her own. She wasn't
You've
like
learned
the
a little
praise.
bit on this show, but Shappi, the point is you had a correct challenge. You have a point for that, and there are 14 seconds for you to tell us something about Boudicca starting now.
The only reason I know who Boudicca fought was because I'm an avid reader of Asterix books, and they taught me everything I needed to know about the olden days. Some people...
Julian challenge.
Repetition of no.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but I misspelt it the first time.
Boudicca wants sound and not smelling. So, Julian, you've got him with 4 seconds to go on Boudicca starting now. She was... Shappi, you challenge again?
I did challenge again. Hesitation.
Yes, 3 seconds still available for you, Shappi, on Boudicca starting now.
I nearly called...
Paul, you challenge?
Deviation. She started on the right time then. Deviation from a normal practice.
A bonus point for Paul, because we enjoyed the interjection. You get one because you were Shappi for being interrupted. There are still 3 seconds available, starting now.
I called my aardvark Boudicca.
Joe challenge.
I feel everyone's getting points and I'm not getting points. They're getting arbitrary
Give her a
points.
point and we carry on. 2 seconds for you, Shappi, on Boudicca, starting now.
I also called my guinea pig Boudicca, and that's...
And so, at the end of that round, a lot of points were scored. Julian's still in the lead, of course. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. And the subject now is my genes. Someone said, oh... They're obviously interested to hear about them in this audience here.
Yes.
Will you tell us something, Paul?
Yes.
60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
I suppose it's one of the things you need for good health. If your parents were healthy people, then you perhaps may enjoy the same benefits. My parents are...
No. Julian, you challenge first.
Repetition of parents.
Absolutely.
Yes. Another point to you, Julian. 51 seconds are still available. My genes starting now.
I'm very hopeful that my genes are robust and longevity will be my fate. My parents, both 87, are like children. They are always...
Joe, challenge.
It's a slight... They weren't children, they were children or something. So
I
just
know.
I don't know where you're
Darren, I
from.
think
Maybe
that's
you
been a
pronounce
little
it differently.
Look, it's a difficult enough game without giving challenges on slurring on a CH. So we won't give any points on that one. Just say an incorrect challenge. You carry on, Julian, with 42 seconds on my genes starting now.
I should never have had that triple gin before I came on. They are always out and about playing bowls and bridge and dancing round maypoles. I said, this is incredible. I think when the time comes for me to mature, if I ever do, then I will also be frisky in the fields around Wiltshire, which is where the family traditionally live. I have strayed from that area since, but my genes are going to pull me back, and the time will come when I will be on the front page of Sunday newspapers wearing lycra shorts in my 90s, and I will put it all down to my genes because there's nothing else.
So, Julian was again speaking as the whistle went and has increased his lead naturally at the end of that round. Shappi, Khorsandi, we're back with you to begin. Cowboys. 60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
Cowboys are a breed of human being, very small, who lived in television sets in the 70s and 80s on Sunday mornings. My brother and I would leap out of our bed. Yes, we shared a bed for a stupid amount of time.
Julian challenge.
Repetition of bed.
Yeah, but she said beds the first time.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And I got self-conscious about divulging the information that we shared.
I know you did. I could see that in your face.
We shared a room.
But this is radio, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Right. 48 seconds available, Shappi. A point to you. Cowboys starting now.
We jumped into the living room, turned on our television set with our fingers, as you did back in those days. Clunk! And again, the same sound until we found the right channel.
Julian challenge.
It's repetition of television.
We had two.
Let's see.
One bed, two TVs.
Julian, you're too keen, but you've got in a game with 37 seconds available. And another point, of course, Cowboys starting now.
I went out with two cowboys simultaneously once, and they let me have both barrels, which was an excitement, I can tell you. Cowboys are a funny lot, not keen on personal hygiene, but when they sit astride their horses, they are on a mission to gallop around and sort out the enemy. And I've always aspired to be a cowboy myself. And who's to say in the future cowboys and I won't bond together and take on...
Joe challenge.
I felt you were coming to a halt or falling off your cowboy horse or something. It was like, so hesitation, can I say?
You can say it, but I don't know whether I will allow it or not.
Oh.
But what I will do, Joe, as he's being so dominant at the moment, I'm sure he can be generous and say, yes, we will interpret that as hesitation so that you can have a point. And the subject, 8 seconds to go, Cowboys starting now.
I always loved cowboy clothes as a child, and my favourite film was Calamity Jane, and Calamity Jane wore fantastic... Oh, what an idiot! What did... Oh. I didn't realise until I did this game that I'm really not very bright. It's a wonderful way of learning about yourself.
Paul got in first.
A repetition of Calamity Jane.
Yeah. And so you've got a point for that, Paul. And you've got half a second to go. Oh, no, sorry. 2 seconds to go.
There we are. 4 times the value.
Cowboys, Paul, starting now.
Gene Autry was known as the...
Right. So Julian's still in the lead at the end of the round. Paul's catching up a bit, then Shappi, Khorsandi, and then Joe Caulfield in that sequence. And Joe, we're back with you to begin. A lovely subject now, if you love flowers. It's daffodils. Can you tell us something about daffodils in this game, starting now?
I bought a new dibber this year for planting my daffodils because I am a huge fan of them. And I didn't know until I got a garden that there's all sorts of different daffodils. So sometimes you're disappointed because then when they come up, you go, oh, they're tiny ones. How was I to know? So now I know you can read a packet and then that will tell you.
Shappi's challenge.
Said no.
No, you said no.
Yeah. Additional no. So, Shappi, you've got in on the subject of daffodils, and there's still 42 seconds available starting now.
They look like trumpets, daffodils. That makes them very pretty in my book. They are smelly sometimes, and the big ones are really no good at all if you want to make a daisy chain. For a start, they're not those flowers. Secondly, when you prick your nail into the stem, this gooey stuff comes out. I would not recommend it. I would stick with putting daffodils in pretty bunches in your cottage vase, if you have
Julian challenge.
a cottage.
Repetition of pretty.
Yes.
Yes, we talked about them being pretty before. Julian, you've got him with another point for the correct challenge, and you have the subject of daffodils. 18 seconds if you need it, starting now.
I don't hold with yellow flowers generally, but I make an exception for daffodils. Aren't they delightful? They make you smile. They cheer up the dullest of homes, even if you live in Chatham. Daffodils are one of the most life-affirming of plants that nature has given us. I think daffodils...
So another point to Julian for speaking as a whistle went. And if anybody wants to write in from Chatham, please address a letter to Julian Clary and not to me. And whose turn? Oh, Julian, it's also your turn to begin. The man who broke the bank at Monte Carlo. Tell us something about that, starting now.
It's a well-known phrase, and it's a well-known song, and based on a true...
Paul challenge.
Repetition of well-known.
Well-known, yes. Well done, Paul. Another point to you. 57 seconds are still available, Paul. The man who broke the bank at Monte Carlo, starting now.
A musical song of the late 19th century based on a real-life event of the man who did break the bank at Monte Carlo. I don't remember his name, but I shall try and make it up. He was known to his friends as Henry Wilkinson, which wasn't, of course, his real nom de plume, but that's what people refer to him as. He didn't go to Monte Carlo at first. He was visiting Worthing when he got on the wrong bus. And he realised as he crossed the sea that he was indeed in Monte Carlo, and he thought to himself, well, I might as well go to the casino because that's what the bank refers to rather than the place where you put your money. So he went along to this particular place where people gambled, and he thought to himself, I'm going to sit at the table and have a game of blackjack. So he was adding out the cards and suddenly thought to himself, I don't want to do this anymore. So he played a game Pontoon, which is slightly similar to the one I mentioned earlier, but it's different because it has a name which isn't quite the same. So he turned to his wife who'd come with him, and she said, what are you doing here? He said, I thought you were home looking after the kids. She said, well, I've got to have a holiday, haven't I? And so the two of them decided to get on a boat and sail away from Monte Carlo because of all the money that they had collected.
So Paul Merton was speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point, and kept going magnificently for 50-odd seconds. Well done, Paul.
Thank you.
And Paul, we're back with you to begin, and the subject, a nice easy one, hats. I know you wear a different number, but explain about them starting now.
Hats are beautiful, aren't they? One thinks of Audrey Hepburn in all those wonderful films that she made, things like Funny Face, Breakfast at Tiffany's. She was always wearing hats of some description or other. Mel hats are particularly useful these days for keeping off the rain and other elements of weather. Snow, hailstones, that sort of thing. Trilbies, top hats, caps, berets, they all come under the general term of hats. I used to find myself walking towards various hat shops here in London and saying to myself, I wonder what sort of titfer would look good balanced on me noggin. And I would wander into the establishment and say to the gentleman behind the counter, Sir, I want you to show me the finest range that you have here in this emporium. And he said, excuse, this is the butcher's. I said, oh, right, sorry. So I would then go into the place next to him, throwing away the sausages which I had acquired in my previous visit, and I would see in front of me the magnificent trilby that I'd always dreamed of.
Shappi challenge.
Trilby, but that was wonderful.
No, it's all right. I forgot I said trilby.
Yes, you kept going for 54 seconds.
Oh, there we are.
Yes. I think we give him a bonus point for going so long, don't you?
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
But Shappi, you had a correct challenge. You get a point. And there are 6 seconds available. Hats starting now.
There's an old music hall song. Where did you get that hat? Where did you get that tile? Oh, yeah!
It's a wicked game, isn't it? But, Paul, you got in first.
Yes, unfortunately, a repetition of where did you get that?
And you'd only gone for
Which is probably a record of some kind.
And you've only gone for 4 seconds. And, Paul, you've gone in with 2 seconds to go. And you've got the subject back again of hats starting now.
Princess Margaret was known for wearing the most...
So, we're into the final round. Julian Clary is still in the lead. He's 3 or 4 points ahead of Paul Merton, and he's a few points ahead of Shappi Khorsandi and Joe Caulfield in that sequence. And Shappi, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is the Grand Canyon. 60 seconds, if you need it, starting now.
Anyone who knows me knows that I am an expert on the Grand Canyon. It is not to be confused with the ordinary canyon that...
Julian challenge.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
It was, yes, you're right.
Yes.
I lost my confidence.
Another point to Julian. 53 seconds are still available. Julian, you tell us something about the Grand Canyon starting now.
I went to the Grand Canyon for my honeymoon, but I didn't see much of it because I was riddled with cystitis. I glanced out the window and I saw it through the mist, but on the last day, my spouse said, let's hire a helicopter, and I was...
I'm sorry, I thought...
Hesitation.
Yeah, it was hesitation. Yeah. But then I thought, oh, were you saying a different word? But no, I'm right. I'm going to be steely about this because you've got all the points. Yeah.
And you've got a point now.
Excellent.
Right. And you've got 38 seconds if you wanted, Joe, on the Grand Canyon starting now.
I had a terrible time at the Grand Canyon because I thought it'd be a really good idea to go on one of those helicopter rides. But I had forgotten that I have a fear of heights. So as soon as this thing started up and it went spin, spin... I'm very proud that I did not repeat helicopter and just spin, spin instead.
Repetition of spin.
Spin, that's right. That's a correct challenge. And there are 25 seconds, Paul. The Grand Canyon's the subject, starting now.
Where did you get the Grand Canyon? And the rest of the...
Shappi, use challenge.
That was out of tune.
And out of sync with the words as well, I think. Shappi, a point to you, and you have the subject, and there are 22 seconds, the Grand Canyon.
I've lost the subject because I'm singing out of tune. Deviation from the usual musical standards. I see. I get it. That's fine.
I think you hesitated as well, didn't you?
I probably did, yeah. The words were longer than I expected them to be.
Yeah. Shappi, you have a point. 22 seconds available. The Grand Canyon starting now.
The Grand Canyon is in Colorado. Imagine what a banana I felt when I went to that place, and it wasn't until I'd got home after a month of being there that I realised that I'd actually been very close to the Grand Canyon but didn't know, so I did not visit it. I am not a very good traveller. I never know where I am or where Grand Canyons are.
Oh. Joe, challenge first.
You repeated no.
Yes, you did.
But I didn't know the whistle was going to go.
Well, it doesn't matter. You got in just before the whistle did. So a point to you, Joe, for a correct challenge. And you have half a second on the Grand Canyon starting now.
It's such a...
And you get another point for speaking as the whistle went. So at the end of that round, Jo, who's only played the game once before, came in a very strong fourth place. It was a good one. She was just a point or two behind Shappi Khorsandi in third place. She was only a point or two behind Paul Merton, and Paul was 2 points behind Julian Clary. So we say, Julian, you are our winner this week. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game: Paul Merton, Jo Caulfield, Shappi Khorsandi and Julian Clary. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score, and she's blown her whistle with such aplomb whenever the 60 seconds had elapsed. We're grateful to our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're indebted to this lovely audience here who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in the same time when we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, dynamic personalities who are going to play in this difficult game. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Stephen Fry, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Jan Ravers. Please welcome all 4 of them. Thank you. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me keep the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. We begin the show this week with Paul Merton. Paul, a shooting star. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
When a meteoroid enters the Earth's atmosphere, it becomes a meteorite, or otherwise known as a shooting star. And they're quite beautiful objects as they shoot across the sky. I was filming in Edinburgh once, and I remember shooting at a piece of wildlife, and everybody was rather surprised at how good I handled a gun. I was, in fact, astonished myself. It had something to do with playing a lot of snooker. Keeping your hand still and pointing at the object and then pulling the trigger was actually quite easy. I don't think I'd be so good at shooting at a moving target, because that would take another level of skill. But nevertheless, I was as amazed as everybody around me that I was able to carry off this remarkable feat. Shooting Stars is also the name of a show that Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer produced for the BCDE. Which is, of course, the British Corporate Domestic Office.
Jan, you challenge first.
Oh, the challenge was hesitation.
No.
No.
He did hesitate.
No.
I knew he did hesitate, because that's because he made a mistake. He repeated something.
OK, well, school me. School me, everybody. Teach me.
You should say, perhaps, there was repetition that led to hesitation, because he was trying to... He stopped himself saying BBC, but then he sort of...
What he said.
Yeah, sure. Jan, as you only played the game once before, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and assume yes, you did get a correct challenge. And so you have a point for that. And take over the subject, which is a shooting star. 13 seconds are still available, starting now.
Charlton Heston could be called a shooting star, as he is a great proponent...
Giles challenge.
I'm afraid he's no longer with us.
But he still could be called a shooting star.
No, he is. You spoke of him as though he was still with us. He was a shooting star. You said he is a shooting star. The man is dead.
He could
it's all
be
over.
called.
He is as dead as a dead parrot. It's all over. You can call him
Silence, please. No, Giles, that's logical what you're saying.
Thank you.
But he can still be dead, and she can still say he was a shooting star.
She didn't say he was a shooting star. She said he is a shooting star.
Giles,
you did. Listen to the recording. Listen.
Calm down, Giles. It's the historical present. Every time you hear a historian on the radio, they say Henry V is very interested in reducing
this. This is why you and I feel the language has become so debased. To make things seem immediate and current, we pretend
it's
the dead are
annoying,
living.
but it is legitimate. It's the historical present.
Stephen, thank you very much for that exposition. It was a perfect explanation, and I agree with you. I should have said it myself, but he got in first.
I had no idea Charlton Heston was dead. I mean, what a way to find out.
Charles, you've got incredible academic composition.
I apologise. I forgot to take the tablets this morning.
You've taken too many tablets.
I know, I'm now aware.
You've taken the wrong tablets. Right, so it was not a correct challenge. You get a point for that, and you still have the subject, and you have 5 seconds to go on a shooting star starting now.
Shooting Star is the name of a Marvel superheroine who was born in Texas.
Well, whoever speaking when the whistle goes in this game gets an extra point. It was Jan Ravens, which is now in a strong lead with 3 points. Stephen Fry, will you take the second round, or begin the second round? It's a difficult call. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
A difficult call, eh? Yes. Dear Stephen, is that you? This is the producer of Just a Minute and controller of Radio 4. We've got rather a difficult call to make to you. We heard you on the programme speaking, and we've decided to cut you from the final version. It's embarrassing and an awkward call to make, but it is necessary. You let the show down. It's had 50 years of history, and people have tended to be competent, but you aren't, so I'm afraid you're cut. You're out. That's the end of it.
Right, Jan challenge.
I think there was a repetition of cut.
There was.
Oh, was there? Very good. Hey, don't you join in, Gyles. Thank you very much indeed.
We're young as a team over here. We are a team.
Oh, I see.
I think not. You were the one that had that rant, that pedantic rant at me just earlier. Don't try and kid me. We're on the same team now.
How extraordinary that my light flirtation was misunderstood in that way.
Gyles can be very fickle, Jan. I mean,
Can he?
Yes, he's just proved it now, hasn't he? 1 minute he's loving you, and the next thing he's giving a go. Right.
Oh, Nicholas, you look hurt by that. Is there some sort of... Anyway, let's not go there.
Go anywhere you want, Jan. I'm with you. There are 31 seconds, because that was a... Who challenged?
Jan challenged me correctly.
Jan, you challenged. You're dead keen, aren't you? You've got a correct challenge. 31 seconds are still available. A difficult call starting now.
I had a difficult call from my vet when my cat had been sent in for some checkups when my cat, Sly...
Oh, Gyles challenge.
Repetition of my cat.
Yes.
I'm so sorry, I wasn't even thinking.
Gyles, a correct challenge. You have the subject, a difficult call, and there are 23 seconds available starting now.
The recent call I received inviting me to be the new face of the Sanitas incontinence pad was a troubling one to receive at several levels.
A Paul challenge.
Are they actually printing the face on the pads? Oh, it's time for a quick Gyles. That solved your Christmas present trouble, hasn't it?
Give him a bonus point for that, because we didn't love it. But have you a challenge within the rules of Just a Minute?
No, but I was pleased with what I said.
Gyles, you were interrupted, so you get a point for interruption. And you have 16 seconds still. A difficult call starting now.
It was a difficult call because they wanted me to be seated in a cot during the advertisement. And I felt they should cut that because my cat normally sleeps in this Oh, there we go.
Jan, you've challenged.
There's a little hesitation in there.
No bloody shit at all.
There was. He had a little
my sweetheart, he didn't hesitate. No, he didn't.
Okay.
So, Gyles, another point to you. Incorrect challenge. Oh, only 4 seconds left. A difficult call starting now.
When Nicholas's wife gave me a call and said the sort of thing she said to me, I have to say I was overwhelmed.
Poor Gyles was then speaking as the whistle went. Gained that extra point. He's now equal with Jan Ravens in the lead, followed by Paul and Stephen. And Jan, we'd like you to begin the next round. And the subject is a wonderful vegetable, broccoli. 60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
Broccoli is a very delicious green vegetable which has little stalks, and you can say to young children that it is akin to small trees to make them more keen to eat the vegetable.
Stephen Shannon.
Oh, that's a repetition of vegetable.
Yes, you did repeat vegetable down at the beginning, right? Stephen, you have a correct challenge. You have a point. You have 46 seconds if you want it. Broccoli, starting now.
I'm rather fond of broccoli. It's a brassica, I believe, related to the cabbage and comes from Calabria in the south of Italy, which is where Cubby Broccoli's family came from, and I suppose they're in some way connected. I don't know. He was a producer of the Bond movies.
Paul Challenge.
Oh, this is a tiny one, but it was a repetition of From. I did say it was tiny.
Wow. Yeah,
but Stephen is so good at the game.
Paul, you have a correct challenge, and I have penalised you for the other one and just gave you a bonus point. And we do avoid 4 words if we can, but I take your premise and give you a point and the subject. 34 seconds, broccoli, starting now.
I didn't eat much broccoli when I was a child, but as I got older, I realised...
Who challenged?
That's 3 eyes in 1 sentence.
I gave you From before.
Yeah,
yes,
well, I felt that. Yeah, absolutely.
Hang on,
Absolutely.
you told me that you weren't allowed to be petty and picky.
It's a movable feast.
Anything's allowed in the game, but I've asked them to resist the temptation to be picky. And I gave it to Paul when he did a From, so I now must be fair. I'm always fair this year. I have to give it to Stephen, because he had a picky one on Paul. So, Stephen, we give it to you, but do watch it, please.
I shall.
Otherwise,
do
Jan
my
Ravers
best.
will get very upset. 31 seconds, Stephen. Broccoli, starting now.
My signature dish, if I can use so loathsome a phrase, is probably cauliflower and broccoli cheese. I boil the first vegetable, the collie, in water, and then a steamer above allows me to steam the broccoli. And then I add a cheese sauce.
Jan Challenge.
Repetition of cheese.
Oops. Yes, too much
Well
cheese.
spotted.
Yeah. 17 seconds are available for you, Jan, on broccoli, starting now.
My favourite broccoli recipe is to steam the broccoli and then to toss it in olive oil and butter and add some almonds and possibly, if you are not a vegetarian, some little lardons.
Oh, Gyles Challenge.
Some.
Yes.
And I felt that was legitimate to query
It
that.
is legitimate, yes. I think it's not From or the.
I'm fine with that.
Some is not From, certainly.
The only thing is, Gyles, you've got him with 3 seconds to go.
Oh, God, it's so annoying.
But it was a legitimate challenge, so he gets a point. Broccoli with you, Gyles. 3 seconds, starting now.
We will meet again at Broccoli is the signature tune of...
Right. So Giles speaking the whistle when again the extra point. He's 1 point ahead of Jan Ravens and is 2 or 3 points ahead of Paul, Merton and Stephen Fry in that order. And Giles, we're with you to begin, and the subject is chemistry. Tell us something about chemistry in this game, starting now.
When Nicholas Parsons walks out onto this stage and the audience greet him, there's an erotic charge right the way through central London. That's called chemistry. It's an amazing phenomenon. It happened before Christmas when Meghan Markle made her first visit to Nottingham with her beautiful...
Jan Challenge.
It's not Meghan Merkel, it's Meghan Markle.
Oh,
very
Merkel is the name of the German Chancellor.
Yes, she's not the German Chancellor.
Although I would like to see Prince Harry paired up with the German Chancellor. I think she'd give him a run for his money.
Well listened and well challenged, Jan.
Thank you, Nicholas.
You've got in with 45 seconds on chemistry, starting now.
Chemistry was my least favourite lesson at school, partly because the laboratory in which it took place was very smelly, and it was Bunsen burners, the residue of that gas that got inside my nostrils and made me feel sick. And I remember our chemistry teacher one day had to give us a talk on the facts of life, which you may not think has anything to do with chemistry, but biology is very closely associated, and it was very embarrassing for this particular...
And Giles, who challenged?
hesitation.
There was a little hesitation there, I'm afraid, Jan.
Yeah.
You went very well. Giles, you've got him with 10 seconds to go on the subject of chemistry, starting now.
Our chemistry teacher also taught us about the facts of life and was then arrested because of trying to bring into the case some elements of physics as well as biology. It must be said that...
Paul, you challenged us
There was
before.
a pause after biology there. Just before the whistle,
I was allowing the whistle. I wanted to hear the whistle, the sweet music of the whistle.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't have waited for it.
I think the only fair thing to do is to say, Paul, give him a point because it was a correct challenge, and a point to Gyles because he almost was speaking as the whistle went. And then I think
why don't give him almost a point? He can take it home and polish it and look at it in the privacy of his own.
Give him another point to keep him happy. Go on. Gyles, you had a point for speaking when the whistle was going, and that's the end of that round. And we're back for you to begin, Paul. And the subject now is Conkers. Tell us something about Conkers in this game starting now.
Conkers, my favourite Labrador. He was so faithful to me. When I was crossing the Gobi Desert, he would look up to me and say, "Why have we come here?" Conkers are the fruit of the horse chestnut, the seeds, in fact. And people play conkers in school playgrounds by stringing string through the centre.
Oh, no, quite right. Carry on.
Yes. Stringing string.
Ignore me.
No.
Yeah, big mistake.
Yeah, we can get too keen on occasion.
I got overexcited and I'm ashamed of myself. And I'm very sorry.
We love excitement on the show, Stephen, but yes, if it's overdone, yes, I agree with you. Paul, an incorrect challenge. Another point to you. Conkers is still with you. 45 seconds starting now.
When I was addressing the Oxford Union the other month, I was asked about Conkers, and I said, yes, it is a game that used to be played by school children.
Stephen challenge.
We had game and used to be.
You did have game before.
Oh, yes.
You talked about playing a game. Yeah. So this time you're right, Stephen. Another point to you. And 37 seconds are still available. Conkers starting now.
Amor vincit omnia. Love conquers all is an old phrase, and I like to think it does. It conquers many things, doesn't it? Inhibition, disappointment, loss of faith. It's a marvellous conquering agent in our lives. The master of the horse chestnut, on the other hand, spelt differently, but also pronounced conkers. What a wonderful game it was we played at school. It's the sign of autumn, isn't it? The leaves rustling under your feet, the string and the swing of it, and the bang and the noise and the chance as you challenge your school friends to a little round of conkers. There's something innocent about it. There was talk, wasn't there, at the City of Norwich?
So Stephen Fry was in speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's still in fourth place, but he's moved. But he's only 1 point behind Jan, and he's 2 points behind Paul, and 3 points behind Gyles. And Stephen, we're with you to begin again, and the subject now is my favourite winter indulgence. 60 seconds starting now.
Well, I've covered the issue of cauliflower cheese with broccoli, so I suppose I ought now to turn to the subject of red cabbage, which I love. A layer of that shredded, covered in demerara sugar, perhaps, a little hint of ginger, maybe a soupçon of nutmeg, some Shappi. No, I had a stroke. Come on, be fair. A little minor one, but
yes, I'm sorry about that. I'd rather carry it away.
Yeah.
Giles, your challenge.
Well, with that diet, we're not surprised he's had a stroke. Hesitation.
Yes.
When we interpret
well, actually, to be fair, I was writing it down as a recipe. So I was pleased he was going at the speed he was.
Giles, you've got him with 44 seconds to go. The subject is my favourite winter indulgence, starting now.
My favourite winter indulgence is to curl up by the log fire and read a good murder mystery. Strange how attractive it is when the Labrador snores by the roaring logs, but less so when you do yourself, as I often reflect from the spare bedroom. I like, on a winter's evening, to indulge myself to playing Meghan and Harry, having a roast chicken supper, and then producing my conkers to show my own darling wife. She loves to play with my conkers, and I then desire... Oh, repetition of conkers is a different round.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a relief.
I'm quite relieved somebody buzzed there, really.
I buzzed myself, didn't I?
Did you buzz yourself?
Yes, at my age, was reduced to that.
Paul
Yes.
buzzed first. I have little lights in front of me. Paul's light came on first.
Repetition of conkers,
Yes.
which, unfortunately, in this round isn't very good.
Well, you can carry on with your recipe, Paul, if you want to. And there are 13 seconds starting now.
Undoubtedly, my favourite winter indulgence is to build a big fire, log by coal, apply the lighted... What is... dreadful.
Stephen, you can...
It was a little bit of a hesitation there, I fear.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Dreadful.
And you've got him with 4 seconds to go, Stephen. Well, you've got the subject back again. My favourite winter indulgence. 4 seconds starting now.
Is the PDC World Championship
And
darts?
wait a minute, Giles challenge.
Repetition of BB.
No, PDC.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's the Professional Darts Corporation.
Oh,
the PDC.
I'm so sorry. I must listen. Forgive me.
I know you're the other side of the stage.
Yeah.
But you did say...
The listeners don't know this. I'm actually in another room speaking to you.
He's in the radio car.
Yes, I have to Skype my contribution.
No, to be fair, he's talking via a Ouija board, so it is... It is difficult.
I misheard. I apologise.
It doesn't matter. It's good fun. Stephen, you have an incorrect challenge. A point to you. And 3 seconds still available. My favourite winter indulgence starting now.
Yes, I absolutely adore the arrows. There's something very satisfying about it.
For those interested in the score, it's all very even. They're all three in the lead ahead of Jan Ravens, but only by 1 point. Oh. And they're all 8, 8, 9... it doesn't really matter. And Gyles, we're back with you to begin. The subject, the ashes. Tell us something about that iconic phrase in this game, starting now.
Interestingly, when I was a child, we played a game called Winning the Ashes within our family, relating to the...
Stephen Challenge.
I don't think that's very interesting at all.
He did say interestingly. Yeah. He did say it.
You said interesting. I'm suffocated with boredom by it.
Stephen, I would have challenged, but I fell asleep. I would have done.
You wait till you hear what happens.
Oh. Wait a minute. Stephen, we enjoy those sort of humorous contributions, so give him a bonus point for that. Gyles, you were interrupted, and you have 55 seconds still available. The ashes are starting now.
My father would put Great-Aunt Gertrude's ashes into an egg timer and say she did nothing useful while she was alive. She can do something worthwhile now she is dead. We also took the same ashes and put them in a snowball. This was a very interesting thing to do at Christmas.
Stephen Challenge.
It's two put-thems. You put them in an egg timer and you put them in a snowball.
I know where I want to put you.
Oh.
Who would have thought such a friendly game could create such aggro? But it's all good fun, isn't it? Right. Correct challenge, Stephen.
Oh, thank you.
And you have 41 seconds available. The ashes starting now.
In my opinion, one of the great sporting contests in the history of the world. It's a cricketing competition between Australia and England and started...
Gyles Challenge.
I just wanted space to yawn.
Touché. But I never claimed it was interesting. That's the thing I see.
No, but you made that evident.
To be fair, I gave Stephen the benefit of the doubt and a bonus point. You can have the benefit of the doubt, a bonus point to him.
Very indulgent.
But Stephen, he was interrupted. Get Stephen a point and keeps the subject. 33 seconds, Stephen. The ashes are starting now.
We were poised at the end of 2017 with each side having won the ashes 32 times. Rather wonderful, that story, I think. However, at the time of our recording, they're going on.
Challenge.
I thought there was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
Was there? Yeah. I think
he waited for an audience reaction. It didn't come.
They were that gripped. Yeah.
So, Jan, you have a correct challenge.
This is a bear pit.
And, but you helped to contribute to that bear pit.
You're right.
And, Jan, you've got the subject of the ashes. 24 seconds, starting now.
I have 2 urns of ashes in my house, and one is the ashes of the aforementioned Sly the cat, and the other is the ashes of my mother-in-law, and we brought them home and put them in a kitchen drawer, which we have also got lots of household...
I just felt it was really coming to an end there. I sort of felt I was putting her out of a misery.
With you. I wonder when someone's going to challenge. You were running out of steam. So, Stephen, correct challenge, another point. The ashes, 3 seconds. Oh, it's only 3 seconds.
Oh, you jammy.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Starting now.
From the ashes of disappointment grow the roses of success.
So Stephen, with points he was gaining that round of the previous round, he's leapt forward. He's leading the other 3 by quite a few points. And Paul!
Oh, yes.
We move into the final round.
Mm-hmm.
And the subject is a wallflower, starting now.
I could have described myself as a wallflower many years ago. Perhaps when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I would go to a party, suffer from social anxiety, I believe is the phrase, where you stand against the wall and don't really engage with the people around you. A wallflower is sometimes somebody who doesn't really get involved.
Stephen Challenge.
A couple of reallys there, weren't there?
Yes, there were. All right. Well, listen, Stephen.
Sorry.
You're keen, aren't you?
No, I do apologise.
No, it's all right.
No, it's not good enough. I'm sorry.
Well, you could withdraw your challenge.
No, I'm not going to do that. That would be too easy. I should suffer and have to take over the round.
Yeah, sure. No, I think that's right.
Yeah.
You should punish yourself.
Yeah, I should.
So what have you two decided between yourselves?
We love you. Carry on, yes, I win and take over, yeah.
Are you going to let him to carry on, or are you going to take the subject?
I'll carry on, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
42 seconds available. That's another point, of course, Stephen. A wallflower starting now.
A wallflower is a kind of flower, I suppose. A border flower, oh dear. There you are.
Hesitation and repetition of flower
it all
away
went
from
wrong.
wallflower.
Yeah.
That's right,
I
yes.
realised I knew nothing about them.
Well, no.
You should have thought of that before you challenged me.
Yeah, there's a lesson there.
There's a lesson there.
Yeah.
Give Paul Merton a bonus point for that. We enjoyed the laugh. And Gyles, you had a correct challenge. There are 38 seconds. You tell us something about a wallflower starting now.
When I go to a fancy dress party, invariably I find myself costumed as a wallflower. The charm of this is that you have a fragrance as well, so that people come around you, sniff, and are amused by your petals and say, "Come dance with me," even though you are a wallflower.
Stephen Chan.
Yeah, two comes who come down to me and I come dressed as a wallflower.
Yes.
I've done it again.
If this is the way it's going, what way it's going to finish?
Well, we're in the final round. I think I know which way it's going to finish. And Stephen, you have 23 seconds. Tell us more about a wallflower starting now.
I am familiar with the sense of it as given by Paul earlier on, rather perfectly in parties.
Paul Chan.
Repetition of what I said earlier. Why you want to steal my material when it's as thin as that, I really don't know.
But he didn't actually repeat the words,
No,
did he, Paul?
didn't,
No. But we're giving Paul a bonus point because we love that interruption. Stephen gets a point because he was interrupted. And there are still 18 seconds available. A wallflower starting now.
I suppose the archetype in romantic fiction is the plain girl who seems not to be very beautiful, but blossoms and grows and is picked by the hero and taken into the dance. These days it could be either gender, of course, but usually one associates it with the female.
Giles Challenge.
Predictably binary, either gender. Honestly, get into 2018, man. Come on. Either gender. Nicholas, come on. You've been ahead of the curve for years.
I can't give you a bonus point for insults.
No, not an insult. You've been fluid since I first met you. It's fantastic.
Look, as this won't make any difference to the result. Giles, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you.
Because we enjoyed what you said.
Good.
And say you've got another point and 6 seconds on a wallflower starting now.
There are 180 species of wallflower, I happen to know. I got that from the great Percy Thrower.
So, Giles, speaking as a whistle went, brought this a rather eccentric show to an end. It's one of the most passionate shows I've ever hosted. And I'll give you the final score. Jan Ravens, who gave incredible value, and remember, she hasn't done it as much as these three boys, came in a very strong 4th place. She was a point or two behind our sometimes winner, Paul Merton, and he was 2 or 3 points behind Giles Brandreth. But out in the lead was Stephen Fry. So we say, Stephen, you are the winner of this edition of Just a Minute. For me to say thank you to these 4 fine, exciting, stimulating players of the game, Paul Merton, Stephen Fry, Giles Brandreth and Jan Ravens. I think Hayley Sterling helped me with the score. She blows her whistle most delicately when the time is up. We thank our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're deeply indebted to this delightful audience here in the Radio Theatre. So from them, from us, thank you very much for tuning in, and be with us again when we take to the air and we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. And to welcome to the programme 4 dynamic personalities who this week are going to play Just a Minute. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Josie Lawrence, and seated on my left, Jenny Eclair and Tony Hawks. Please welcome all 4 of them. And as usual, I'm going to ask them to try and speak on the subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to run the stopwatch for me, and she'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we'll begin the show this week with Tony Hawks. Tony, oh, a lovely subject here, zombies. Can you tell us something about zombies in this game, starting now?
Zombies are the living dead, otherwise known as Worthing Bowls Club. And if you want, watch lots of terrifying films about these creatures. I don't know why they're always in these horror epics, because they're not that scary, in my opinion. Quite straightforward, nicely turned out. And if you want to get away from them, jump in your car and go to Waitrose, where very few of them are found these days, except in the meat counter. Now, I haven't got a great deal more to say on this subject.
Paul, you challenge.
Humanitarian urges. A slight hesitation.
No, there actually wasn't.
No, he was. You're right. He wasn't. He was getting there, but
he was getting there.
He
yeah.
didn't get there. No.
I haven't got much more to say, and you buzzed.
Yes.
So he actually hadn't paused.
No, it's true.
You anticipated the pause.
I didn't. Yeah, I was psychic.
I can't give a bonus.
He's going to pause in the third subject, though.
I can't give a point for anticipation.
No,
so
I wouldn't. No.
It was an incorrect challenge, Tony.
Yeah.
Well, a point to you. You keep a subject.
Still, we know where it's heading, though, don't we?
I thought something else.
The idea that you don't find many members of the Worthing Bowls Club in Waitrose, I find it deeply disturbing. But it's a bit late for that now.
I know, but we've lost all them as fans of the show, haven't we, now?
Yeah.
Tony, there are still 22 seconds available.
22,
You've got
eh?
another point.
I'll be fine.
He'll be fine.
Zombies, starting now.
I'm particularly fond of the 60s rock group The Zombies, featuring Colin Blunstone and Rod Argent. She's Not There. Do we remember that song?
Jenny challenged.
There's never been a song called Cheese Not There. Deviation from the title of the song, which I think was She's Not There. But what he says was Cheese Not There. Why would anybody write a song called Cheese Not There?
Somebody who didn't have any cheese that used to be there.
Jenny, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you.
Because you're sitting next to Tony, and therefore you could have heard much better whether it was cheese or she's. And say,
I wouldn't have guessed that Tony's attempt to talk about zombies would falter on using the word cheese inappropriately. I wouldn't have got that.
Did I say cheese?
It was a slight...
I didn't hear cheese.
No, I didn't hear cheese. I don't know about the audience. What did they think?
No, the audience are further away.
Yeah.
Jenny was right beside you. Jenny, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt.
I'll go with that.
Yes. Yeah. And there are 10 seconds available. Tell us something about zombies starting now.
She's Not There.
I lost concentration for a second. Did you give me the round?
Yes, darling.
Yes.
Oh, no.
She's looking at me. Why is Tony not talking?
Oh, no. We must edit that out, otherwise I'll look an idiot. I'll get any other word. You can't do that.
You won't look an idiot. It's radio.
I'm so sorry, everybody.
Jenny, don't apologise.
No,
it all adds to the fun of the show.
It worked terribly well. I'm glad.
This is the woman whose judgment on cheese we accept.
I thought it was back to Tony, and I was thinking
Absolutely,
he's been
because
a bit
you
slow,
knew
and I'm
how
gonna
unjustified your challenge was.
Did I buzz myself then?
No.
Whole challenge.
Paul buzzed in. Paul pressed his buzzer.
Well.
Because there was a long, long pause.
But you should have buzzed me for hesitation. Really? If you hadn't been listening.
Please make Paul take the round.
Yeah.
Well, he will take the round because he got a correct challenge.
Right.
Which was hesitation, of course. Paul, I point to you for that. 9 seconds are still available. I should have said the subject is cheese, but it isn't. The subject is zombies, starting now.
One of the very first zombie films made in the 1960s was called Dawn of the Dead, and if you look around this panel, you know exactly what I mean. George A. Romero...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Paul Merton who is naturally in the lead at the end of the round. Jenny, we're back with you to begin. The subject is a cactus. Tell us something about a cactus in this game, starting now.
30 years ago, a friend of mine visited Salvador Dali's garden and took a cutting from a cactus. 3 decades later, I have no idea what happened to it. Cactuses are ideal house guests, considering they sit in the corner doing...
Paul challenge.
Well, I'm not a great gardener, so this may not be deviation, but can you take a cutting from a cactus?
Yes, you can.
Can you?
You can indeed.
If
yes.
you're wearing
took one
gloves
from our
and
mother's
you've got a sharp implement, yes.
Which bit of it do you cut off?
The succulent bit, always.
Really?
There's kind of offshoots.
Yes.
You're a gardener, Nicholas. Can you do this? Can this be done?
Yes, I don't have cactus. I don't like them, but...
May I draw you the kind of cactus?
No, please.
I'm so sorry. But that type.
That's disgusting, that drawing.
But yet again, another great radio moment.
The cactus, yes. You take out one of those fleshy parts.
You take out one of the leaves, or
Oh, do
whatever
you?
you want to call
Okay,
them.
right.
yes,
I'm
and
glad
stick
I
it in.
know. I've been informed.
Yeah, well, it's good that we have people informed of the show
Exactly.
as well. So it was an incorrect challenge.
Absolutely.
And Jenny, another point to you.
Thank you very much.
And there are 39 seconds still available. A cactus starting now.
A cactus is a bit like a camel of the horticultural world, not needing...
Paul challenge.
Sorry, I don't know a lot about gardening. But is it deviation to suggest that a cactus is a bit like a camel?
I can't see any resemblance at all, Jenny.
No, insomuch, as I was going to continue, insomuch that they require very little water.
Gee, got a point.
Because they store...
I thought camels did need water, but they were very good at distributing it slowly amongst their system.
This is the same with the cactus, Paul. They take in the water... And because they actually, when you mentioned that... Sorry, I'm getting to be a cactus ball
to Gardener's Question Time.
No,
So
don't worry, Jenny.
in the same way that a rock is a bit like an egg timer, neither one of them's very good at conversation.
Jenny, don't worry. I think they're taking notes at home. Actually.
Yes, I hope so, yes.
So what Jenny's actually said is correct.
Yeah.
And
I'm not going to challenge any more gardening ones.
So, Paul, we give you a bonus point. Tony, another bonus point for that. Jenny, you get a bonus point as well.
Thank you.
Josie, you didn't speak.
No, I haven't even spoken yet. I'm still here, listeners.
Jenny, we'll keep it with you because it was an incorrect challenge. You have another point. 34 seconds are still available. A cactus starting now.
A cactus is hardier than one might imagine. I have lots in my back garden in south-east London, obviously a bit tropical, and they're ever so fashionable at the moment. If you go to those eateries that sell smashed avo on sourdough, there will genuinely usually be a cactus or some kind of succulent sat on the table.
No.
Josie challenge.
No, I've got my succulents confused because Jenny mentioned succulent, but it was during the banter, not the minute.
Outside of the round.
So, with my invisible whip, I lash myself.
So, Josie will be...
I don't know why I said that.
You really do need a boyfriend, don't you? She really does.
How many other people in the audience lash themselves with invisible whips? I don't know.
Good Lord.
Oh, look at her hands go up.
Everybody.
Josie, I won't charge anything
So
on
sorry,
that.
Jenny.
We did have so much banter in between, you were not to know whether it was in the show or not.
Yeah.
I think I've peaked on cactuses.
That sounds desperately uncomfortable.
Jenny, you have another point. You have 9 seconds still available. A cactus starting now.
One must be very careful of certain specimen of cacti.
Paul Challenge.
Was there a little bit sort of slur on specimen?
There was a slur, but not enough for me
Not
to grant
enough,
it.
not enough to drag us away from this fascinating subject.
And with only 4 seconds to go, it would be mean if I took it away from her.
Absolutely.
So, Jenny, you've got another point for an incorrect challenge.
Thank you very much.
Right. But keep going for 4 seconds if you can. A cactus starting now.
Some of them have poisonous sap, and you must never lick a cactus as occasionally.
So, at the end of that round, Jenny Eclair was still speaking and gained an extra point. She's taken a commanding lead. Josie Lawrence, we'd like you to begin the next round.
Right.
The subject is Silicon Valley.
Oh, bloody.
Something very modern. Overwhelmed at the thought of talking on it, but she'll do her best as she starts now.
Silicon Valley is in America, California, I think, but it's not a valley made of silicon. That would be stupid. It used to be full of orchards, but...
Tony Challenge.
Was there 2 fulls? It's not a valley full of silicon. That would be stupid. It's a valley full of orchards.
Oh, Tony.
Yes, I'm glad you spotted that. I put it there for you.
Repetition of full.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Well, listen, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
You got a point for that? You have 49
You'll
seconds
get back.
if you want it.
I don't know a lot about this.
Silicon Valley, Tony, starting now.
I had my breasts enlarged at Silicon Valley. And
Paul Challenge.
I'd get your money back if I were you. God knows what they looked like before.
What I like to do on these occasions is that was a lovely interruption, so give Paul a bonus point because we enjoyed the laugh. But Tony was interrupted. He wasn't deviating or hesitating or repeating himself. So, Tony, you also get a point. 45 seconds available. Silicon Valley starting now.
all sorts of techie people sitting around coming up with new gadgets and devices which don't, in my opinion, really enhance our lives that much. No more screens, I say. I'm tired of them. And they come from Silicon Valley. They might try and pretend they're not, but these are the producers of these wicked things which I haven't finished yet, which ruin your...
Josie. You keep challenging. Yes, Josie, you're challenged.
Repetition of these.
Yes, these. Yes. So, 21 seconds are still available, Josie. Silicon Valley, starting now.
You see, the thing with Silicon Valley is it got taken over by, as Tony said, these nerdy types. They don't mind being called nerds by...
Jenny challenged.
Nerdy.
No,
it was nerdy.
It's nerdy. She's good. She's good.
She managed to wriggle out of it by saying nerds instead of nerdy. Mm-hmm. So, Josie, an incorrect challenge. Another point to you. And 11 seconds still available. Silicon Valley starting now.
It all started in Silicon Valley many years ago when a bloke invented something amazing called the transistor. It was very tiny and...
So Julian Lawrence was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so. And they're all equal in second place, trailing Jenny Eclair and Paul Merton were with you to begin. And the subject, I don't know whether this has been chosen for you or not, but it's ballet. But maybe you know something about it. Tell us what you can in 60 seconds, if necessary, starting now.
Whenever I go to the ballet, I always wish I was sitting nearer the stage because I can't hear the dialogue. And the wonderful thing about ballet, we look at Tchaikovsky's Nutcrackers, Swan Lake and various other works, is the way that these young dancers in their tights are able to explore the limits of the human body. They leap forward across the stages of the various theatres that they appear in, and you can see the heart and the craft that goes into this magnificent piece of theatrical productions. I sometimes think to myself, if only I'd carried on my ballet classes when I was 14. What are you laughing at? When I was 14 years old, I could have been the prima donna of Covent Garden.
Tony challenge.
He's the wrong sex to be a prima donna.
I identify as a prima donna.
Yeah, I think I've got to give it to Tony on that one because it is deviation
Yes,
from your
absolutely.
sexual...
Being a prima donna backstage doesn't count.
I mean, theatrically, people talk about being a prima donna.
Does that not refer to both sexes? Can't you be a prima donna?
Yes, you
Well, it
can.
means first woman.
If you
Prima
behave in that
donna.
sort of manner. But you
What's
were
the
talking
male
about...
equivalent of prima donna, I wonder?
Prima bloke.
You were
Prima
But, Paul, you established that this was you actually dancing.
Yes, I did
And you
do
were
that,
a
yeah.
prima donna in your dancing.
Absolutely.
You weren't being a prima donna in your behaviour.
Absolutely.
So, Tony, you have the point, and you have the subject. And there are 15 seconds still available.
15
Ballet
seconds.
starting now.
It's never a good idea to put wood at an end of a shoe, which is what they do in ballet. The carpenters come down, cut up these pieces.
Well, his own laughter gives away that he's talking rubbish. The years I spent at Covent Garden, I never had a carpenter stick a bit of wood in the end of my shoe, thank you very much. I was too much of a prima donna to have them.
Tony, I think he's right.
Well, I wasn't talking a lot of sense, but within the rules of just a minute, Nicholas. I think you can't really nail me.
Cutting off my
No,
career.
within the
I was
rules
talking
of
about my
just a minute,
career.
If you deviate too far, you are guilty of deviation.
Fair enough.
But they do put wood at the bottom of ballet
What is the
shoes.
block?
Yeah.
What
It's
is the
called the
block, at the
block.
bottom of the shoe? It is made of wood.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, girls.
It is, I think... I mean, I've done quite a lot of dance, and I went on point, and Josie, didn't you?
Yes.
Where did the block go?
The block isn't the... We're both lying, by the way. When you're on point, you're on the tippy-tippy toe.
Darling, we are on radio. You're demonstrating now.
OK, we need an adjudicator in the
A
audience.
ballet shoe has a block of wood at the bottom of the toe bit.
That's
Yeah,
how
but that's
they
not at the
balance on
end,
it.
is it? Carpenters don't come down and shove wood in the end of your shoe.
I think you'll find, Nicholas, my solicitors, Jenny and Josie, have put forward a very good case for me to continue this subject. I have a huge amount to contribute to the subject of ballet. Please give me 4 more seconds with which to do it.
I've got to give someone the benefit of the doubt.
I'll have the benefit of the doubt.
Let's all have a point.
I've
Yeah,
not
but
had the benefit of the doubt yet, Nicholas.
Give them all a point then, all right? And Tony, you continue.
Oh.
Yeah, with ballet, because nobody's taken it. And, well, I haven't given it to anybody. 5 seconds still available, Tony, starting now.
When I first started ballet, I used to find the pirouette the hardest thing to do. My teacher took me aside, said, Tony...
Right. So Tony Hawks is then speaking as a whistleway, gained the extra point, and he has crept forward. He's just behind Jenny Eclair, who's still in the lead, and they're just ahead of Paul, Merton and Josie Lawrence in that order. And Tony Hawks, we're back with you to begin. Oh, this is a fascinating subject. You take it so many ways. Tony, the subject I have in front of me is pie. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
Well, pi is either the ratio of a circle's diameter to its circumference, or steak and kidney, which you can stuff down your gob. Now, that depends on whether you're a mathematician or a baker, largely. I could get onto a carpenter, but I did that in the previous round. With great success, I would add. 3.14, I believe, is the number. Beyond there, it continues for infinity. Can you imagine that, ladies and gentlemen? A number that just goes on and continues to do so.
Paul,
Was it a repetition of continues?
Yeah, you put continue before.
I tried to trick you, but then I said a word I'd already said.
Yes. It did fool me initially.
So, Paul, that's very cleverly listened. You have got in with a correct challenge. You got a point, of course. 15 seconds are still available. You tell us something about pie in this game, starting now.
Before every performance of Swan Lake at Covent Garden, I was given a pie by my chief teacher who said, "This will keep you on the ground because the carpenter will be coming around and sticking some wood up your shoe." And I said, "I'm ready for that."
Tony Chan.
Repetition of said.
Oh. Really?
Yeah. Unfortunately, if you want to be pedantic, yes. And what can I do? I've got to go by the rules of
No,
government.
it's the rules, certainly. Yeah.
It is the rules.
Said.
Spoils the fun. Tony, another point. 8 seconds. Pie starting now.
If you take a pie and then put all sorts of things around the outside of it...
Paul Challenge.
Repetition of A. If you take a pie, we had a pie earlier.
We're being pedantic now. I don't want any more.
I don't know where I got it from.
No. I gave him the benefit of the doubt.
Sorry,
then,
I
and
thought Sid was all right. I thought you were all right too.
No, he's got his own back on you, right. So you got a point last time. He gets the point this time. And there are 2 seconds to go, but just resist the temptation to have this one-upmanship. Paul, 2 seconds, pie, starting now.
Crusty contents dripping down your...
Right. So, at the end of the round, with Paul speaking as the whistle went, there are 3 of them in the lead. That is Paul, Merton, Tony Hawks and Jenny Eclair. A few points ahead of Josie Lawrence. Jenny, we're back with you to begin.
Still here, yes.
And what a change from the last subject.
Oh.
Of personality. Audrey Hepburn.
Oh.
Tell us something about Audrey Hepburn in this game, starting now.
Audrey Hepburn was a beautiful, waif-like movie star who was also a fashion icon thanks to the little black dress, pearl necklace and cigarette holder made by that film which was called Breakfast at Tiffany's. Actually about a whore, but they watered it down in the one she starred in. I preferred the Roman Holiday with Gregory Peck. Do you remember? She was a princess who managed to look around Rome without her entourage. Personally, I found the woman a bit thin, but she had a tragic childhood, brought up by fascist parents. Awful time in the war. And
Paul Challenge.
No, her parents weren't fascists. They lived in Holland, which had been invaded by the Nazis, but they themselves weren't fascists.
Oh, I got...
Her father, I think, was a bit of an odd bloke, but her mother wasn't a fascist.
I'm not encyclopedic, I'm afraid, about Audrey, and it was just a rumour I heard that maybe I shouldn't have repeated on the radio. But considering, it's quite a long time ago, I must
think,
shoot
Jenny,
my
if you
sources.
said, and rumour had it.
Rumour had it!
It's too late now, darling. No, I've got to give you the benefit of the doubt on that one, Paul.
There was a documentary that Darcy Bustle did over Christmas about Audrey Hepburn.
I missed it, Paul. I must go back and watch it on catch.
So, Paul, another point to you for a correct challenge, and there are 14 seconds available.
Who's got it?
Paul has.
Oh, has he?
Well, he was the one who challenged you, darling.
Right. I'm starting to understand this game.
I know, but it's the wonder that you don't understand it too well, because you're so entertaining within the rules of the game.
Okay.
I didn't get any reaction at all from you. Paul, 14 seconds, Audrey Hepburn, starting now.
I turned to Darcy Bustle in the dressing room at Covent Garden and said, one day you will do a documentary about Audrey Hepburn, and you will adequately and very clearly explain her childhood. When she was about 13, she moved to a little village called Elam in Kent, which is...
What I will do now is to give you the situation as we move into the final round.
Oh, dear.
Paul Merton, who often wins this in this game, and contributions are great, he's just in the lead, ahead of Tony Hawks and Jenny Eclair, equal in second place, and they're a few points ahead of Josie Lawrence. And Josie, it's your turn to begin.
Really?
The subject is a rare treat. Tell us something about a rare treat in just a minute, starting now.
Well, it seems to me that a treat should be a treat, not occurring very often. And the nature of that obviously means that in itself it is rare. If it wasn't rare, it surely wouldn't be a treat. I am partial to a cream horn, but I haven't had one since 1986. And if I had one again, it would be a rare...
Paul Challenge.
repetition of I've had one.
Yeah.
Can I just point out, I seem to be sitting on an invisible whip. I'm not sure.
Oh, dear. Oh, I love a cream horn.
Do you love a cream horn?
Right, Paul, You were correct. You got a challenge which was right, and you have another point, and you have 33 seconds to tell us something about a rare treat starting now.
A rare treat for me is to go to the theatre and watch a musical. I don't often attend as much as I would like, but I do enjoy the whole genre of musical theatre.
Tony challenge.
Is there a repetition of musical?
Yes.
Yeah, musical,
yes.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Musical. Right. Tony, well listened. Have a point there. And 23 seconds are still available. A rare treat, Tony, starting now.
It is indeed a rare treat for me to appear on this programme. When the phone call comes and they offer me the 10 grand, I say, yes, I am available to do this because it is a rare treat. Only happens once in a blue moon, one might say. That's because I'm crap.
And Paul challenged.
No, it's because they can't afford you more often. £10,000.
Yeah, I hope the listeners don't take you seriously on that. Otherwise they wonder why I'm working.
They spend all the money on the set. He did hesitate after crap, though.
Oh, he did. He did definitely hesitate. So, Paul, you got in with 2 seconds to go. But it was a correct challenge.
Yes, that's a
so
rare
he's entitled
treat.
to his point. And his 2 seconds on a rare treat starting now.
Darcy Bustle turned to me and she said, "Oh, you're a rare treat."
So once again, a very close contest, but I think the points are less important than the fun we have, aren't they?
Absolutely.
I'm so glad you agree with me. So Josie Lawrence, who won last time these four were together with a different audience, came in a very magnificent 4th place.
Yes. I like to spread it out a bit.
She was a few points behind Jenny Eclair, who was 1 point behind Tony Hawks, who was 3 points behind Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, you are the winner this week. So we do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute, and we'll want to tune in again at the same time when we play the game. And it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine, entertaining players of the game: Paul Merton, Josie Lawrence, Jenny Eclair, and Tony Hawks. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score, and who's blown a whistle with such style at the end of the 60 seconds. We're indebted to our audience here, and we're indebted to our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're deeply indebted to our creator of this idea, Ian Messiter, and we're grateful to this lovely audience here, who's cheered us on our way magnificently. So from our audience, from Neil Nicholas Parsons and the team, thank you, and tune in the next time we take to the air and we play Just a Minute!
Just a Minute is a BBC Studios production.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, dynamic personalities who this week are going to show their skill with words and language as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Joe Caulfield, and seated on my left, Julian, Clary and Shappi Khorsandi. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me with the score. She'll run the stopwatch, and she'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we begin the show on this occasion with Julian Clary, and it's, a lovely subject, a man's best friend. Starting now.
There are 3 important people in my life: husband, chicken, and dog. And the order in which I prefer them is reverse order. A man's...
Paul Challenge.
Repetition of order.
Yes. A correct challenge, so Paul, you get a point for that. You take over the subject. There are 50 seconds available. A man's best friend starting now.
Undoubtedly one of my best friends is Nicholas Parsons, the astute chairman of Just a Minute, whose charitable responses to the various interjections that I make in this programme over the last 30 years have endeared me to him. He is a wonderful individual. One only has to look...
Joe challenge.
Nauseating?
Don't you like Nicholas? Don't you like him?
How dare you, Joe? I've been singing your praises for years. I tell you what we'll do, Joe.
I feel it was heavy-handed.
No, darling. It was a very good joke. So we give you a bonus point for that. But Paul was interrupted, so he keeps the subject, and there are 35 seconds available. A man's best friend, Paul, starting now.
Traditionally, it's thought of as being a dog, isn't it, a man's best friend? But I suppose any pal of particular species can be attributed to yourself, and you think to you...
Julian challenge.
Hesitation.
I think that was a hesitation, Julian, so teetering on the board a bit, but enough to give you a point, and 25 seconds still available. A man's best friend starting now.
My best friend is Albert the dog, a staffy crossed with something that got over the fence.
I was going to say deviation because last time it was the chicken that was the favourite, and now it's the dog.
Capricious. No, it wasn't.
Was it not?
No,
I thought it was husband, dog, chicken.
No, it was husband, chicken, dog.
No.
What an absolute fool to get the chicken and dog thing the wrong way round.
What's your challenge with the rules of Just a Minute, then?
An untruth, and I think of a deviation as untruthful. Repetition of dog is another one that I'm hearing. It was almost like I could hear Paul Merton's voice in my head, and I thought, it's repetition of dog. I think that's what it is.
Yes, Paul was sitting next to you, too. So, Julian, an incorrect challenge. And there are 20 seconds still available. A man's best friend starting now.
We often go for a walk along the beach at Dymchurch, and he stops and cocks his leg, which...
Oh, how disgusting.
Sorry, I'm confused. Is this the husband, the dog, or the chicken? Which one is it?
I wasn't allowed to repeat dog.
Oh, I see. It's the dog. I see.
Yes. So
I
now
can't
you know.
imagine a chicken cocking its leg, though, can you?
No, it's the dog cocking his leg, not the chicken. Although there's an obvious cock reference there, which is unusual for Julian, but there we are.
Didn't come out of my lips, it came out of yours.
Well,
So,
really
Paul,
trying to clarify.
What was your challenge? With
I was trying to figure out which it was, the husband, the dog, or the chicken that was cocking its leg in Dymchurch.
I think only dogs cock their legs when they have a wee.
You ought to go to Dymchurch.
I think we enjoyed the interruption. Give Paul a bonus point. Julian, you were interrupted. You get a point for that. 14 seconds still available. A man's best friend starting now.
Sometimes my best friend gets ill on account of chewing seaweed while scampering about on the sand. So I take him to the vet and he says, oh, your best friend's not well at all. He's going to have an enema. So the...
So Julian Clary, speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point. And he's 1 point ahead of Paul Merton in that order, then Joe, Caulfield and Shappi, Khorsandi. And Joe, it's your turn to begin, and the subject now is Hercule Poirot. There's my French accent there. Hercule Poirot. 60 seconds for you, Joe, starting now.
Hercule Poirot would be very annoying to go on any sort of roughhousing holiday, a walking trip, something like that, because he does walk. He sort of moves very weirdly, is very pernickety, likes everything just so.
Julian challenge.
Repetition of very.
Yes, very, very, yes. Julian, another correct challenge. 45 seconds are still available. You tell us something about Hercule Poirot, starting now.
Hercule Poirot, known for his luscious moustache, which would be the envy of old Compton Street, were he to mince down there on one of his many expeditions. An inquisitive mind Hercule had, always on the lookout for something untoward that he might be able to solve in his own French manner.
Paul challenge.
Deviation, he was Belgian.
Yeah, depth of knowledge, Paul. Correct challenge. He was Belgian. Point to you.
He's as Belgian as any fictional character can be.
Wasn't Tintin Belgian?
That's a repetition.
No.
27 seconds are available. Hercule Poirot, it's with you, Paul, starting now.
Tintin was Belgium until he was recycled.
Repetition of Tintin.
No, it's one name.
One name, Tin.
Yeah, Tintin.
Oh, that's his name.
Yeah.
Tin-Tin.
You're not very good in the Belgians, are you?
Paul, another point to you. 25 seconds still available. Hercule Poirot starting now.
When I was living in Macklin Street, just off Drury Lane, I was astonished one morning to see David Suchet as the eponymous detective walking across the road towards the Masonic Hall. They were filming an edition of the ITV series, but because it was very bleary-eyed in the day for me, I was astonished to see this thing happening in front of me. There was a hansom cab driven by an ugly driver.
Julian Challenge.
He was astonished twice.
Yes.
Well, he was very astonished.
I was, yes.
And Julian, you listened well. You've got in with 4 seconds to go. Another point, of course. Hercule Poirot starting now.
He came over from the Belgium on the boat and arrived.
Paul Challenge.
He came over from the Belgian. Deviation of the most extraordinary. No wonder we're leaving Europe. I mean, this is extraordinary.
What's your challenge with the rules of
deviation? No, he came over on the Belgian. That's not...
Instead of on
That's
the boat.
the name of the boat.
No, I think you were deviating from English as we understand it. So, a benefit of the doubt to you, Paul. 1 second to go. Hercule Poirot starting now.
Agatha Christie.
So at the end of that round, Paul speaking as a whistle when gained an extra point. He's 1 point ahead of Julian Clary, and then come Joe Caulfield and Shappi Khorsandi. And Shappi, we're with you to begin, and the subject is superfoods. Yes. Perhaps you don't like them, but can you talk on the subject for 60 seconds if you need it, starting now?
Superfoods are what supermarkets call foods like blueberries and pomegranate seeds to make people buy them at heightened prices, where actually these are actual foods, and I don't know what makes them super. I once saw a blueberry wearing a cape. Thank you for not noticing that I...
Joe, you challenge.
Because Shappi pointed out that she'd repeated blueberry, I then noticed that you'd repeated it.
Can we discuss my self-esteem, please? That I effectively buzzed myself there.
And I'm very grateful for that. Yeah.
It's my pleasure.
So you buzzed yourself, but Joe's light came on in front of me here.
If you had buzzed, you would have got a point.
Yeah.
Because I did say it twice.
So, Joe, a point to you, and superfoods as a subject. 43 seconds starting now.
Superfoods are one of those things that have always been written about in newspapers. Oh, this week... you should eat.
Paul challenge.
Well, there was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
37 seconds still available, Paul. Another point to you. And superfoods starting now.
Superfoods have become very popular over the last few decades. Cauliflowers, broccoli. I particularly am fond of cauliflower because it's one of...
Shappi,
cauliflowers and cauliflower.
Yeah, cauliflower. And also, cauliflower isn't a superfood.
Is it not?
No, not really.
I don't think so.
No.
Really?
But it was cauliflowers and cauliflower, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
But it's not a superfood, I think.
I thought it was. Broccoli and cauliflower, I thought was
Broccoli
superfoods.
is because it has lots of iron, but cauliflower doesn't have the same properties.
No, and the audience certainly endorsed what we said, and they're
And they certainly look as if they live on a diet of superfoods, this lot.
So, Shappi, a point to you, and 29 seconds available. Superfoods starting now.
I would like to rebrand superfoods and have things like Ferrero Rocher, Mars bars and marathons and...
Paul challenge.
Well, if I'm challenged because cauliflower isn't a superfood... It must surely be deviation to suggest that Ferrero Rocher should be reclassified.
No, she said that's what she would like.
Oh, is it?
Yes. So she could like that, but it doesn't say it would work.
No, OK.
You see, this is what would be her wish.
Yes.
And that's how she can express it in just a minute without
Absolutely.
hesitation, repetition, or deviation.
You're no longer my best friend, by the way. No, you are.
Can you get so fickle over a point?
No. Not at all, not at all.
Right. Shappi, an incorrect challenge. You have a point, of course. Superfoods, 22 seconds starting now.
The whole point with food is that you have to eat it, whether it's superfood or not. I once ate some food that wasn't very super.
Paul challenge.
Is it a repetition of food?
Yes, because it's foods on this.
I'm a binge eater.
So this time you are correct, Paul.
Yeah.
And I'm your friend again, am I?
Yes, you are, yeah.
All right, good.
I've ranked you above the chicken now.
15 seconds available for you. Superfoods, Paul, starting now.
I would like to reclassify concrete as a superfood because it's very filling, solid, and really, when it's in your stomach, you know you've had it. Superfoods are magnificent. Seeds, berries of all kind. We can wander through the forest, look at the trees, and pick...
So Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point and has increased his lead at the end of the round. And Paul will also with you to begin the next round. The subject, quite simply, is grass. Tell us something about grass in this game, if you can, starting now.
Well, it's a wonderful substance that you find on football pitches and cricket fields and various arenas of sporting activity. In America, they have developed a substitute called AstroTurf, which is a kind of plastic grass, but there's nothing like the real thing. Who can remember their schoolyard days when they would come out of the playground, run across the field, sliding on their knees, leaving grassy stains up and down their legs and say to themselves, I'm in touch with nature. These caps on my middle legs are now particularly suffused in the most gorgeous colour. I am a magnificent beast. I shall walk along showing everybody that I am at one with the universe. I can play rugby with the best of them. I'm a hooker.
Go on. Oh, Shappi, you challenge.
That was a moment of revelation, wasn't it?
There was many eyes.
Yes,
many
right.
eyes.
Many eyes. Oh, yes,
yeah.
right. Yes.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
So, Shappi, you're very clever of you there. You got in. 14 seconds to go on grass, starting now.
Grass is what some people smoke to get a little bit high. Americans call it that name. In Britain, we tend to call it weed, which is...
Paul, challenge.
Repetition of call it.
Yes, call it. Yes. So, Paul, you got back in again. You've got the subject. 5 seconds. Grass, starting now.
In the arena of model railways...
Joe, challenge.
Repetition of arena.
Yeah, did I say arenas before? No, I think I did say arena.
Arena,
right.
yes. So,
Absolutely.
Joe, well listened. You've got in there. Another point to you. And 3 seconds to go only. Grass, starting now.
Freshly mown grass is the most beautiful smell.
Right. So Joe Caulfield was speaking as the whistle went and has moved forward. She's still in third place, but she has moved. She's just behind Julian Clary, ahead of Shappi Khorsandi, and they're training Paul Merton, who's in the lead. And Julian, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is Cairo. Tell us something about Cairo in just a minute, if you can, Julian, starting now.
Well, it's the capital of Egypt and a very big city, but not the place to go if you are a member of the LGBT community at the moment. They are notorious for persecuting gay and lesbians and...
Paul, challenge.
Well, sadly, hesitation.
It was indeed, yes. So Cairo is with you, Paul. There are 46 seconds available, starting now.
As I wiped the sand from my eyes, I looked up at my dastardly enemy, Nicholas Parsons, who was riding astride a camel, spitting into the ground, and the animal was even worse than him. And I said, why have you followed me across the deserts of the world to capture me in the hotel room here in Cairo, pinning me against the fridge door? He cackled a maniacal laugh as he whipped the turban off his head and took his trousers off and said, how's this for a sailing boat? I said, well, I don't know what you're talking about. It was an extraordinary sight as he grabbed me by the neck, throttling the life out of me. Cairo suddenly became a blur as I realised the high-rise buildings were turning into pyramids in front of my startled eyes. I was hypnotised.
Well, Paul, that was a real tour de force, yes. And you kept going magnificently till the whistle went, gained an extra point for doing so, and you've increased your lead at the end of the round. And Joe Caulfield, we're back with you to begin a long weekend. Tell us something about that subject in this game, if you can, starting now.
A long weekend can be good, or it can be, a long weekend.
Paul, challenge.
Sadly, a repetition of can be.
Yes.
Oh, so soon.
Quite quickly.
Wasn't it?
Quite quickly.
Immediately.
I'm happy to withdraw the challenge.
You're very kind. You are in a strong lead.
Yeah.
You're a very generous player of the game. Joe's only played it once before. He's given way to her. So do watch it, Joe. And
avoid saying it can be.
a long weekend, Joe. 56 seconds, starting now.
It would feel like a long weekend to me if I have to stay with other people I don't really like other. See?
Shappi challenger.
Yes, a hesitation.
Hesitation, yes. 48 seconds are still available. Shappi, you tell us something about a long weekend starting now.
I went on a long weekend to Brighton with my mother, and on the way she said to me, "Shoppar چند میرسیم اونجا؟ واسه اینکه من نمیدونم کی میان. از وقتی که ما رفتیم هی به من گفتن بلیتت کو اینجا
Joe challenge.
I don't know the rules, but is it deviation to use another language like that?
No, it's
I
not
didn't know that
deviation,
wasn't in the rules.
But she did repeat one of those...
Which one did she repeat, Nicholas?
Your pronunciation is perfect.
Right, yes.
You've just ordered a plate of well-done earmuffs.
So I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to you, Joe, and say that you've got 35 seconds. You tell us something about a long weekend starting now.
When you're in people's houses, they sometimes...
All challenge.
Well, hesitation.
Again?
And there was this hesitation, yes.
Huge
And,
amount.
30 seconds available, Paul. A long weekend starting now.
As I pulled myself away from the grasp of Nicholas Parsons in that hotel room in Cairo, I realised it was only Friday afternoon. The next few days lay ahead of me like some torturous trail. Saturday, Sunday, then perhaps Monday would bring some relief, the end of the long weekend. But no, it was not to be. As he drank from his hip flask, I recognised the aroma of whiskey about his lips. I thought to myself, I'm not getting out of here alive. And indeed, I didn't. It was an horrendous struggle.
So, Paul, you really are on form tonight, taking us on excursions of fantasy, which are delightful.
Oh, it's for you, it's fantasy for me. I've had therapy for the last 10 years.
Well, I'm going to need it after this, if you do. And that. Paul, you've got another point for speaking as the whistle waned, and you've increased your lead at the end of the round. Shappi, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is my poker face, starting now.
My poker face is rubbish. Everyone knows exactly what I'm thinking when I'm trying to pretend I'm not saying that...
Julian challenge.
Hesitation.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, why?
Well, because she hesitated.
I didn't even know. I don't think it was enough to give a hesitation on that, Julian. So, benefit of the doubt to you, Shappi. And 54 seconds still available. My poker face starting now.
Usually when I mean to pull a poker face, what I'm actually doing is smiling a lot, and so people know that that is my poker face, and I know
Julian challenge.
Hesitation.
We got it on that.
I can't imagine why you think that.
So, Julian, correct challenge, a point to you. My poker face, 44 seconds starting now.
My poker face is much admired. I play that particular game with Dame Joan Collins and her lovely husband Percy, and they study my face when I've got a particularly good hand and tell me that it's completely inscrutable. I think this is probably due to the plastic surgery that I'm invested in, which makes everything completely flat and plain. You can't see it on the radio, but take it from me. My poker face is my fortune in many ways because I never leave Jones empty-handed.
I was going to say repetition, but no, it was Jones and Joan, wasn't it? So it was plural and singular. So I was...
you're very
although
generous.
when I buzzed it, I hadn't got to the S.
Snuck it in.
Another point to you, Julian.
Oh, thank you.
8 seconds available. My poker face starting now.
My poker face is what I take with me when I go to the casinos and people look at me, but to no avail.
So Julian was speaking as a whistle Wayne and gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's in second place behind Paul Merton, and they're both ahead of Joe Caulfield and Shappi Khorsandi in that order. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. An oasis. Tell us something about that subject. You've taken us there almost before already, but you take the subject in a different way now, starting now.
Finally, I left the hotel room in Cairo and made my way across the desert. Day after 24-hour period, I saw myself with nothing but sand in front of me. Then, a sudden appearance, an oasis. It looked like a beautiful oasis full of water. I moved towards it. The palm trees were growing next to it. And as I dipped my head into the lovely liquid that was there and started to drink it down into my stomach, I suddenly felt the shadow of a presence that I hadn't seen for some time. ground, the unmistakable smell of camel, but in fact it was Nicholas Parsons. And I realised that he again had followed me from the room that I'd been in earlier, and now this was to be my fate. Strung between two particular plants in the middle of this sandy bit I was talking about before, and there I was, the oasis in front of me. Was there no escaping? I dived underneath the surface, my lungs gasping for air. I came up and saw the reflection of the most ghastly, hideous creature.
Well, Paul, you really are giving us a masterclass in how to play Just a Minute. Your flights of fantasy are absolutely surreal and delightful and successful in this game. And in gaining you points, and you've got another one for speaking as a whistle went. You get a bonus point because you were not interrupted throughout that show. And so you're in a commanding lead at the end of that round. And Julian, it's your turn. Revolving doors. From the oasis of the desert to revolving doors is a big leap. But you have 60 seconds if you need it, but Julian, starting now.
When I was a resident for several weeks at the Seabold Townhouse Hotel in Sydney, Australia, I was very popular with gentlemen callers. They were coming thick and fast. And the minty receptionist said to me one day, "We are thinking of installing revolving doors in your hotel room." I was furious and demanded to see the manager. But then I thought, revolving doors, this could be just the thing. Someone coming in as the previous one is leaving. So I had them installed, and I must say my holiday was complete thereafter. Revolving doors otherwise can be a bit of a menace if you are trying to get into the BBC. There's a whole...
A Paul sound.
Sadly, repetition of B.
That's someone who's played the game a lot who can spot it. It's so natural to say it BBC as if it's one word, but it is a correct challenge. And Paul... 20 seconds are still available. Tell us something about revolving doors starting now.
The problem with revolving doors is you find yourself going around and round and...
Shappi, you got in first.
Yes, he said round.
No, around and round.
I know you did say that. Around and round.
Yes.
Around and round.
Yeah.
So is it correct or not, my challenge?
It's incorrect, my darling.
Okay.
16 seconds. If we're still with you, Paul, having got another point. Revolving doors starting now.
There's a Charlie Chaplin film made in 1916 called The Cure, and one of the great sequences in that particular movie features revolving doors. A man with gout on his leg, bandages wrapped around the end of his foot, catches himself in the aforementioned revolving doors...
So, Paul Merton again, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. And as we move into the final round, Paul Merton is definitely in the lead, way ahead of Julian, Clary, Joe Caulfield and Shappi Khorsandi in that order. And Joe, it's your turn to begin. The subject is my New Year's resolutions. Can you tell us something about that? Did you make any? What's happened to them? Starting now.
I always make New Year's resolutions and I never keep them. I think that's the best way to do New Year's resolutions, knowing that you will do exactly what you want whenever you want anyway. But it's a good...
Shappi?
Want,
yes.
Yeah.
48 seconds, another point to you, Shappi. 48 seconds on my New Year's resolutions starting now.
There's no point whatsoever making New Year's resolutions. I make them and I break them immediately. For example, this year I decided I wasn't going to buy any clothes at all. But then I said I will...
Paul challenge.
Well, sadly, hesitation.
Yes, a hesitation.
I think it's an affliction. I think it's...
Not buying clothes?
No, I think my hesitating is... It's sort of not my fault. Can we make an allowance for that in future?
If you come back now, we'll try.
Thank you.
But the point is that the pressure of playing this game makes one do all kinds of verbal surprises with our speech that you're not aware of.
No, I need to practice it on the bus with strangers.
You needn't do it with strangers. You can do it with friends if you want to.
Yes, or you can book me more often here.
So, Paul, a correct challenge. 35 seconds still available. My New Year's resolutions are starting now.
New Year resolutions are quite notoriously difficult to complete because you start off with the best intentions and then somehow throughout the 12 months that follow you find yourself breaking them. You could perhaps say to yourself, when I play Just a Minute, I resolve not to hesitate, repeat or deviate, but it's impossible to follow that out because so much of normal speech consists of those three things, particularly in the world of comedy. We often say to ourselves, I wonder if I could actually say a phrase that I've already said, and we realise that it might work.
So Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point, has increased his lead, and as I conveyed when we began the round, well, actually it's very interesting. Shappi, Khorsandi and Joe Caulfield are equal in third place. A very strong third place, actually. And they're only 2 or 3 points behind Julian Clary, who won last time these four were together. And out in the lead, many points ahead, was Paul Merton, because he went on a number of flights of wonderful, surreal fantasy. So we say this week, Paul Merton, you are our winner. It only remains for me to say thank you to these four delightful players of the game, Paul Merton, Joe Caulfield, Shappi, Khorsandi and Julian Clary. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score, and she blew the whistle very delicately when the 60 seconds elapsed. We're grateful to our producer, Victoria Lloyd, and we're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're indebted to this lovely audience here. From me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, and tune in at the same time when we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute walls fade away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, dynamic personalities who are going to play Just a Minute. They're going to display their skill with words and language as they try and speak on a subject that I give them without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Stephen Fry, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Jan Ravens. Please welcome all four of them. Thank you. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me keep the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we begin the show this week with Gyles Brandreth, and the subject to start with is the speaking clock. Tell us something about that in this game, Gyles, starting now.
I was a lonely child, and during my childhood, my only friend was indeed the speaking clock. I would call T-I-M, or Tim, and then a voice would say, at the third stroke, the time will be 12 noon precisely, if indeed I was making my call at noon.
Stephen challenged.
I repeated a call there.
Yes, you made a call more than once. Right. So, Stephen, you have a correct challenge. You've got in on the subject of the speaking clock, and there are 40 seconds still available, starting now.
When I was young, it was a female voice I heard, and then a man took over. But the first one, it was so redolent of an age of Bakelite and musky valves and a period that I dimly remember from my earliest years. A sort of misty, melancholic feeling of the 50s rises up whenever I hear the phrase, the speaking clock. Nowadays it isn't necessary. We all carry devices about our persons that tell us the time, always and accurately, almost perhaps with too much accuracy. Is that fair to say? Yes, it is, Stephen. Well done. And the speaking clock seems to have gone back into the history and dusty shutters of the past. However, it...
Gyles challenged.
Repetition of past.
Oh, yes.
That's good, that. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, good.
Right at the beginning, you did say past. You repeated it, and I was listening, fortunately. And I should say essentially, but there we are. Gyles, you have a correct challenge. You get a point for that, of course. You have 3 seconds still available. Oh, yes. The speaking clock starting now.
1936 was the year in which the speaking clock first took...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. It was Charles Brandreth, and you won't be surprised to hear he's in the lead at the end of the round. And Jan Ravens, will you begin the second round? The subject is elephants. Tell us something about those lovely creatures in this game, starting now.
Elephants have always been one of my favourite animals ever since I heard the song Nellie the elephant packed her trunk and said goodbye to the circus. Off she went with a trumpety trump. You know what's coming next. And this song was played on Junior Choice with Ed Stewart, and I was very keen on that. They are very empathetic animals.
Oh, Paul Challenge.
You had two quick berries there.
Yeah, two very.
Very.
Yes, great.
One after another.
Beautifully done, though. The singing was exquisite.
Yeah.
And how quickly the audience found entertaining, but then clapping along.
We should nearly have the audience joining in then.
Yeah. Sparky's Magic Piano, that was another one.
Yeah. Dear old Stewpot.
Yeah.
Can we get back to just a minute, please?
Sorry.
Paul, you had a correct challenge. Yes. There are 36 seconds still available. You tell us something about elephants, starting now.
Nicholas Parsons talks in his autobiography of seeing elephants walking down the high street to advertise a circus that was visiting the town that he lived in, and how enthralled he was by seeing these grey giant beasts perambulating along the main highway. He was fascinated by them and went to see the entertainment that was being put on under the big tent. As the elephants circled around the ring, one of them looked him in the eye and predicted that one day he would be hosting Just a Minute for 50 years this month. It's 1967, well, it deserved more than that, I would have thought. And yes, exactly. Let's hear it, yes.
So, Paul, you know a bit about me, but fortunately the audience didn't interrupt before that. You kept going, ad-libbing, sort of waffling over the audience reaction, which was lovely, and thank you so much for the warmth of that observation that Paul's made about my age doing the show for so long.
And your achievement, hosting the same show for 50 years.
Yeah, how about that?
Are you in the Guinness Book of Records, Nicholas?
What's that?
Are you in the Guinness Book of Records?
No, do you know why? Because the fan club wanted to put me in, and they said, no, other shows have run longer. But they said no show has run longer with the same person presenting from the day one. Yeah. And they haven't got a category. They have a category for pushing a snail up a hill. And Stephen, it's your turn to begin. The subject, a topical one here, the ghost of Christmas past. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Oh, yes, in Charles Dickens's Tale of Christmas, the wonderful carol that he called it, Jacob Marley's ghost appeared to young Scrooge.
Charles.
Hesitation.
And he was old anyway, he wasn't young, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
He was babbling, I'm sorry.
Young Scrooge.
I think we could interpret that as
I think so,
Stephen.
all over the place.
Giles, a correct challenge. There are still 50 seconds available. Tell us something about the ghost of Christmas past, starting now.
When I was a child, I was desperately lonely, and the ghost of Christmas past was my only other friend.
I'm just a bit sick of hearing about this lonely sad. Every show he wheels out these sob stories just to gain the sympathy of the audience.
It's not as if we don't believe it.
So, Jan, what was your challenge, my darling?
It wasn't a challenge. It was just a comment.
Well, we give you a bonus point because you don't play the game very often.
Observation.
And we enjoy the interruption.
Out of pity. He's giving me bonus points out of pity now.
No rabbit.
So, Giles, you get a point for being interrupted, and the subject is still the ghost of Christmas past. 45 seconds, starting now.
Suddenly, when adolescence hit, I became a very merry person and would go to fancy dress balls dressed as different kinds of ghosts. The ghost of Christmas past was my favourite because it involved wearing white makeup and putting on an old sheet and going, whoa!
All challenge.
Why did you bother putting on the makeup if you then put a sheet over the top of your head?
No wonder you had in the 1950s, I was pure method. I got the idea from Marlon Brando.
Giles, you've answered it, but what was your challenge within the...
Well, deviation. He's put on white makeup and then put a sheet over his head.
Because I can't
give it that.
And how did he transform from this miserable child to this exciting adolescent in his own words?
Drugs. An excess of Lemsip, age 12.
There was a repetition of ooh.
Yeah. Yes, it was one word
as well. It was one very long, rather attractive word.
It was one long word. I was sitting right next to him when he said it, and it was woo. It wasn't a repetition.
No, he did. He paused,
then said woo afterwards.
Then he said a woo again.
Yeah, that was after the
on the buzzer.
Yeah, on the buzzer. Although I thought, what the hell now?
No, I think we should hear how his adolescence turned into the marvellous adulthood he's got now.
Paul, there's logic in your challenge, so I give you the benefit of the doubt.
You're very kind.
And you have a point, and you have 29 seconds for The Ghost of Christmas Past, starting now.
Alistair Sims starred in a 1950 film version of Scrooge, and for many he is still the best actor essay in that role. Albert Finney also played the part in a musical version which came out some time later, but for me it is the great A.S. What a magnificent thespian he was. He would grab you by the words and... I had to change that.
Giles, your challenge first.
A hesitation as he got to words.
Yes,
because
it was cut.
So, Giles, you've got the subject back again, and you have 8 seconds on The Ghost of Christmas Past, starting now.
I decided in my 20s, still going through quite a mellow period, that to play The Ghost of Christmas Past was best done without any makeup at all.
Paul, challenge.
Repetition of makeup, I'm afraid.
Correct challenge, Paul, and you've got in with half a second to go. But it was a correct challenge, and those are the rules of the game. So, Paul, you have half a second on The Ghost of Christmas Past, starting now.
Jacob Marley. Still the best version.
So at the end of that round, Paul Merton is gained the extra point, and he's now equal in the lead with Gyles Brandreth, and the other two are trailing just a little behind. And Paul, it's your turn to begin. The subject now is water divining. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
It's cropped up recently in the news that it turns out about 7 of the water authorities in Great Britain actually use water divining to find water. And a physicist got very angry about this and said to the papers, these people should be ashamed of themselves. But I find it rather fascinating that if they are using the ancient art, if indeed that's what it is, of water divining to find water, then perhaps there is something in it, because after all, it doesn't cost very much, and they are the experts in detecting drains or sprung leaks or whatever they're looking for underneath the surface of the earth. John Humphreys, who is a presenter of the Today programme on Radio 4, also happens to be a water diviner, and he was able to fix a particular leak that he had on his farm, not referring to the vegetable, but something that was referring to... talking too quick.
Stephen.
It was so good, there were 2 referrings.
Yes. So
absolutely.
We enjoyed it, and it was very interesting, Paul.
It was very interesting.
Stephen, you've got in with 18 seconds to go with a correct challenge. Another point to you, of course. Water divining, starting now.
I think they also call it dowsing. It's an interesting word. I don't know why that means that, but still, it does.
Giles, challenge.
Would you like to know?
2 demonstrative pronouns.
Giles, if you want to give us information, you'll have to wait till after we finish this round.
Of course.
Because you interrupted Stephen.
Yes, indeed,
so it was
I
an
did
incorrect challenge. There was no challenge at all, was it?
No. Well, I felt it was deviation. He was talking about things he knew nothing of.
That's what you have to do in this game.
All right, Stephen, there's still 13 seconds. You have another point. Water divining, starting now.
It's my understanding they often use hazel twigs. It doesn't have to be that wood from the nut tree, I suppose, but it's a common one that's used. They attempt...
Jan, challenge.
I think you said used
No,
twice.
they use and then used.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, you're right back at me, aren't you? Like,
yeah.
Oh, you see?
Sorry.
Okay.
And they play the game a little bit more than you do.
I know,
Yes.
lots more. As I say, I don't often
Darling,
get
but your
asked back.
contribution is lovely. So, Stephen, another incorrect challenge. 5 seconds still available. Water divining, starting now.
I'm not sure that I have much faith in their powers to find water, but they at least try, and I suppose that's something.
So Stephen Fry, with many points in that round, including one for speaking as the whistle went, has moved forward. He's now equal with Gyles and Paul in the lead ahead of Jan Ravens. And Gyles, you wish to say something. What was it?
Alexa, what is the origin of the word dowsing? Properly equipped listeners at home will now have the answer delivered to them.
You're making us redundant.
Gyles, we really enjoyed that, so we give you a bonus point. All right. Your turn to begin. Bonnie Prince Charlie. Tell us something about that character in this game, starting now.
Bonnie Prince Charlie led a futile quest to restore the soul of Scotland, very much as Nicola Sturgeon is trying to do now. But he did it in the 18th century, and he sailed across the sea to...
Charles challenged.
Hesitation.
Correct challenge, 43 seconds. Bonnie Prince Charlie, starting now.
When I was attempting to become a young and successful actor, I auditioned for the great star James Robertson Justice, who was making a movie about Bonnie Prince Charlie and was looking for young men who were attractive and cute.
A repetition of young, when I was a young star, I was looking for young girls.
Two young men there.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, a correct challenge. 31 seconds are still available. Bonnie Prince Charlie, starting now.
Charles Edward Stuart, otherwise known as the Young Pretender. Of course, he lost the Battle of Culloden in 1745 and had to escape the British Butcher Cumberland and the others. Went to the Isle of Benbecula, I think it was called, and thence to the island of Skye, aided by Flora MacDonald. A very romantic tale, but he ended, sadly, a drunk.
Giles challenge.
This story would be so much more attractive if it was being recounted in the historic present.
Giles, that is a lovely comment, and I think it deserves a bonus point.
Yes.
But Stephen was interrupted, so he gets a point for that. And there are 12 seconds still available. Stephen, Bonnie Prince Charlie is starting now.
Bonnie Prince Charlie goes to Rome, styles himself the Count of Albany, marries, has some children, but has a dissolute and unfortunate life and dies a disappointed, embittered man.
So Stephen started with the subject with great historical erudition. He carried it forward. And Giles, we're with you to begin. And the subject is Henry Moore. Tell us something about that man in this game, starting now.
Henry Moore. Now, do we mean Henry Moore, the great sculptor, or do we mean Henry Moore?
Oh, Paul challenged.
Oh, I'm afraid it was a whole repetition of "Or do we mean?"
Yes, do we mean? Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, right. Paul, you had a correct challenge.
Yes, thank you.
Subject is Henry Moore. 55 seconds, starting now.
One of the great sculptors of the 20th century, no doubt. His holes were fantastic. Another Henry Moore used to be my next-door neighbour. And when I was addressing the Oxford Union the other day, I remember talking about him to the assembled students. Henry Moore, a fantastic character. He was the first man to operate a one-man bus in Widnes.
Stephen challenge.
This man you had before.
Yes,
one-man bus,
right
yes.
at the beginning. So, Stephen, you got him with another correct challenge, a point.
One man's not hyphenated, is it? One-man bus?
Oh, might be. Oh, apparently.
Yes.
Hello, favouritism.
Yes.
What was that?
Well, I said man and then one man, and of course one man's hyphenated, as we all know.
No.
Still
So,
two words,
Stephen,
though, isn't it, if it's hyphenated?
I don't know.
Stephen,
I don't know.
there are 36 seconds still available. Will you tell us something about Henry Moore, starting now?
Great Yorkshireman, I believe, certainly much beloved by members of that county. He has many works presented in public parks and outside, and people react with them. Smooth, monolithic creations. He was originally a painter and drawer as well as a sculptor, much influenced by African art, I believe.
Paul
We
Jones.
have much admired earlier.
Oh,
Much
yeah.
admired, yes.
Repetition of much.
Well
I do say
listened,
that a
Paul.
lot.
Well
Yes,
listened.
Oh,
Yes.
I write that down, actually. It's worth
Yeah,
knowing.
thank you.
19 seconds are still available, Paul. Another point, of course. Henry Moore, starting now.
There were no conductors working on these vehicles, and that's why they were described as such. Henry Moore had this most magnificent dog, a Labrador called William Jenkins.
Hesitation.
No wonder he hesitated.
I had no idea I was going to say that.
Hesitation, and also maybe deviation.
And from the
because we're back
expression
to
on your
Labrador.
face, that's the same thing we thought. So, Jan, the correct challenge. You have the subject. You have only 9 seconds, but tell us something about Henry Moore, starting now.
Henry Moore did very large, smooth sculptures with holes in them, and he came from Castleford in Yorkshire, but moved down and worked with Barbara Hepworth.
So Jan Ravens was then speaking as the whistle when gained the extra point, and she has moved forward. She's still in 4th place, but she's moved. But No, she's only 2 or 3 points behind the others, and she begins the next round. Jan, the subject is a Knickerbocker Glory, starting now.
A Knickerbocker Glory was the favoured pudding that I used to eat when I used to go with my mother. I did that again. Sorry, I really must, go home and practice in the mirror not saying used to over and over again.
Is that what you said?
I did, yes. That was the challenge, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Oh, God.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, can you give you a point for a correct challenge? But as Jan hasn't played the game much before, can we be generous to her?
I think so.
And say, keep the subject, Jan. No points, but you keep the subject. And there are 55 seconds, a Knickerbocker Glory, starting now.
I was channeling Stephen.
How dare you?
And I decided the hesitation was so great that we can't...
No, I'm going to do the same with you as I did to Stephen.
Oh, go sit around here patronising her because she's a woman. I see. It's your choice. It's your
take
choice.
a point away from Gyles.
Fine.
No. This is the most ecumenical show you could ever find. The women are as much respected as the men on the show.
Is that what ecumenism means now?
No, that means something to do with the church. I just threw it in to show I had some erudition. Anyway. Jan, you've got the subject still. There are 53 seconds. A Knickerbocker Glory starting now.
A Knickerbocker Glory is the pudding I suggested that my mother have as well as...
Gyles challenge.
We had favourite pudding earlier. This is the second time she's repeated that.
right, because yes, I said
used to. It's a pudding I used to.
Yeah.
Pudding has been repeated.
You see, you can't repeat, Jan. Can you?
No, from the one you were saying before. Yes, I know you can't repeat, darling.
Yeah. Are we going to treat Jan as...
No.
Fine, we're not. Well, then feel free to repeat, to hesitate, to do what you like, love.
Gyles, I might take another point away from you if you're not careful. Actually, I've never done that before in 50 years. Take points
Wouldn't
away.
It be extraordinary to enter the minus score?
Anyway, Gyles, to show how fair I am, it was a correct challenge.
That's very
So
sweet.
you take the subject, you get a point. Knickerbocker Glory, starting now.
Knickerbocker Glory is a most amusing dessert, and I'm thrilled that the royal wedding will be serving it afterwards, because we had coronation chicken back in 1953, and for 2018, and the nuptials of Harry and Meghan were having this glorious American dish.
Stephen challenge.
We're having... Did that happen twice? I think we're having it, and then we're having it again.
That's quite pedantic.
I don't think anybody heard it.
Oh, OK.
Did anybody in the audience hear having twice?
Clearly not.
No, great. Another point to Gyles. And 33 seconds of Knickerbocker Glory, Gyles, starting now.
As a child, taking holidays in Broadstairs, we would go to the little Italian ice cream.
This hardly fits in with your childhood reminiscences from earlier. Of being the sad, lonely child.
Yes, my parents thought a sugar rush in an ice cream parlour is just what this little depressed 7-year-old needed.
So, Paul, what's your challenge?
Deviation from his previous extensive childhood memoirs.
I don't think I can allow that one. No. It's a lovely challenge, and we enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Not enough to get a bonus point. But a point to you, Gyles, incorrect challenge. Knickerbocker Glory, and 29 seconds starting now.
There is also a wonderful dance called the Knickerbocker Glory, which involves one throwing one's arms in the air and pirouetting as though one were a sweet...
Jan challenge.
Repetition of one.
Yes. Well, listen, Jan. Listen, yes. The correct challenge, another point to you. And you've got this audience with you as you try and speak for 21 seconds if you need it. A Knickerbocker Glory starting now.
A Knickerbocker Glory is served in a very tall glass with a long spoon, and at the bottom there is fruit salad encased in fruit...
Gyles, challenge first.
Repetition of fruit indicated by Jan herself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Getting
There's
halfway through the word. Too much, too fruity.
Gyles, you had another correct challenge. You have a point, of course. 11 seconds. A Knickerbocker Glory starting now.
It could also make a most amusing costume to come dressed as a Knickerbocker Glory.
Jan, challenge.
I think he said amusing before.
Yeah.
Yes, it was amusing before. Well, listen, Jan.
Less so now.
But Jan, you've got him with only 8 seconds to go. And the subject is a Knickerbocker Glory, starting now.
The crown of the Knickerbocker Glory is the maraschino cherry on top of whipped cream, which comes out of one of those canisters.
So Jan Ravens was then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point for doing so. And we're moving into the final round. Mm-hmm. But I know what you want to hear. What is the score as we move into the final round? Yes, of course you do. It's very, very close. Jan Ravens, who's only played the game once or twice before, is in a very strong 4th place. No, but she's only 1 point behind Stephen Fry and Paul Merton, and only 2 points behind Gyles Brandreth as we go into the final round. And it's Stephen's turn to begin. And Stephen, a lovely subject, musical theatre. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Well, I've been involved in musical theatre. I wrote the book of it.
Oh, challenge.
Well, there was a repetition, sort of.
Yes.
Sadly.
No question.
We can't let that one go, I'm afraid. So, Paul, a correct challenge and 56 seconds still available. Musical theatre starting now.
One of the great experiences of my early life was seeing Michael Crawford in the musical Billy, which had been written by Ian Clement and Dick Lafrene from the book by Keith Waterhouse. And what a fantastic experience it was.
Giles, challenge.
Repetition of experience?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Early experience.
Yeah.
So, Giles, you've got a point. You have the subject. And there are 44 seconds still available. Musical theatre starting now.
I'm getting married in the morning. Ding dong, the bells are going to shine.
I very much doubt that. There's nobody that desperate, surely.
Paul, you're good for the ruderies, but it's such fun. We give him a bonus point because we did enjoy the interruption. So, Giles, you get another point. You have 41 seconds, but just watch the singing, please. 41 seconds on musical theatre starting now.
During my up and down childhood, I was taken to the theatre on many occasions. And the musical I remember most vividly was indeed the original production of My Fair Lady, starring Julie Andrews, Rex Harrison, and the wonderful, extraordinary artiste...
Jan challenge.
Wilfred Hyde-White.
Oh, I should have mentioned him. I was going to give Stanley Holloway a billing. I was trying to remember the order of the billing, but probably you can actually refresh our memories.
I think we should get on with just a minute. So, Jan, you challenge first.
I challenged on the hesitation.
Yeah, you did hesitate because you were searching for the name of Stanley Holloway. And there are 26 seconds for you, Jan, if you want it, on musical theatre starting now.
I am very keen on musical theatre. I love the musicals of Rodgers and Hammerstein, Oklahoma, Carousel, those marvellous melodies, If I Loved You, This Was a Real Nice Clam Bake, I'm Just a Girl Who Can't Say No.
Giles challenge.
I thought I'd take advantage of the last turn of phrase. According to Paul, I'm a no-hoper.
Yeah, he's on the edge of proposing.
Can I do you a roast chicken supper? Can I design a ring for you?
Yes. We did enjoy the interruption. And we give him a bonus point. You didn't enjoy it, darling, no. But you were interrupting, Jan?
Yes.
So you get a point for that. And you have 9 seconds still, if you want it, on musical theatre starting now.
Musical theatre is one of the most uplifting genres of all because when there is a moment in the script where you can hear the audience...
So Jan Ravens was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. And now, if you're interested, I'll give you the final score. I mean, I think the fun is more important than the points, but some people are very intrigued by it all. And it is very, very close. They're all almost equal. But 1 point behind the others, in 4th place, was the erudite Stephen Fry, and just 1 point ahead was Paul Merton, equal with Jan Ravens, and 1 point ahead of Jan and Paul was Gyles Brandreth. So we say Gyles Brandreth. So it only remains for me to say a thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game, Paul Merton, Stephen Fry, Gyles Brandreth and Jan Ravens. I thank Hayley Sterling, who sat beside me with the stopwatch, blowed her whistle when the 60 seconds had elapsed. We thank our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're deeply indebted to this delightful audience here in the Radio Theatre. So from them, from us, Thank you very much for tuning in, and be with us again when we take to the air and we play Just a Minute!